Mr. Bear, hello. Do you how do?
Holy shit, hello.
I legit just got off of Gundam Breaker 3 before you two started shouting live with Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I was looking at stuff on my phone. I sent out the links. Apparently I missed. You're hearing voices again. I hope they're. I hope it's mine and Latios's voices. Apparently I missed a recording of Ultra Galaxy Chat, and I'm a little sad that I missed it. But on the other hand, I'm glad I did because there's one other member of the team that I love him to death, but he can be a real dumbass sometimes.
Betty from Season 3 uploaded their second episode, and they wasted no time in showing how depraved the Titans are.
Awesome.
Used a vacation colony in order to essentially shake them and have a slightly more private meeting. The Titans just showed up and Hyzack started shooting up the place. But only once they had visual confirmation that our main cast was there.
Armor Hyde says, "You have any idea how little that narrows it down?" I don't know if he's talking about what I said or what you said.
Yes.
So anyway,
like, these are the guys who gassed a colony for daring to protest.
oh yeah, they did do that.
Yeah, I'm never letting that go. These guys may have an awesome sense of design for Jim and Gundam type mobile suits. Their color scheme is badass and all.
Oh,
But
he
God damn, are they awful?
he's talking about the other member the other member that, like, I love them, but they're a dumbass. Um.
Yeah, how little that narrows it down.
Okay. He doesn't watch my stream, so Blaze. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back. After the frantic ending that was yesterday, I'm back with more Final Fantasy 16, joined by Latios today, as always.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Did you remember to take your water today? Because seriously, woo!
Yeah, I had to run an errand for my mom, and oh my god.
Stay hydrated, people. Getting dangerous out there.
So, last time on 15, FF16, we infiltrated this place to try and find the dominant of fire that killed Joshua. And we ended up fighting Benedicta, the dominant of Garuda, and took her powers.
Just, wow.
Can you turn Latios up? I can't hear what they're saying. Yes. Alright, say something.
Bargain possible to hip.
I asked you to
Because
say...
it has to be a SpongeBob quote at some point.
Oh, I was gonna say, I asked you to say something, not summon an Elder One.
There's nothing you can say that'll stop me. Oh yeah, what if I said? Proceeds to say what I did. And Sammy tells him, I'll admit that slowed me down, but I'm not stopping. No, I've had enough Eldritch entities after having to fight the Dark Gundam twice in one night.
Jeez.
Master Asia's going on about how nothing's gonna stop the Dark Gundam this time because now that it's been resurrected with even more fuel for its self-evolution ability, nothing's going to take it down anymore. Me, strolling up in the Turn A Gundam. Allow me to introduce myself. Now, I've mentioned the Turn A before. Probably on podcasts and off, but the long and short of it is, this thing is literally an end-of-the-world machine.
In the first episode of its show, it's seen wiping out humanity and modern civilization.
All those Return to Monkey memes, the Turn A is responsible for that actually happening.
He literally, the Turn A... Wait, you have? When? Armorhide being a little shit.
The Turn A Gundam possesses a weapon known as Moonlight Butterfly, or Moonbeam Butterfly if you translate it wrong, like Dynasty Warriors Gundam Reborn did. Oh well, close enough. It's a swarm of nanomachines. Get your Metal Gear jokes in now while you can.
Nanomachines, son.
It's a swarm of nanomachines that basically devours everything they come across. Any technology, weaponized or otherwise, gets reduced to dust. Specifically, they list a chemical compound that describes sand, but I digress. The Turn A unleashed this in like flashbacks seen in the first episode. This is what reduced humanity's speed to the Stone Age once, and forced us to climb back to essentially just prior to World War II in terms of technological advancements.
World War II or World War One? Because I always thought it was World War One.
World War One, World War II, it was something around there. It was early 1900s.
If it was early 1900s, then I would say World War One, because World War II was mid.
It was it was 20th century somewhere in there.
Mid-ish. I don't know. It started in the 30s, ended in the 40s. That's kind of mid-ish.
Fair enough. Like, point being, they barely had automobiles at the time the Turn A re-emerged.
So yeah, okay, so yeah, definitely World War One.
And it's like, in terms of evolution, I can see the personification of evolution going, damn it, not again!
World War II was... Did you see what Armorhide put? World War II was mid, Vegas Fair 2023. Not what I meant, but...
Like you said, he's a little shit.
I just hope that doesn't show up on a shirt somewhere.
Because no, that war was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. Lots of people making lots of mistakes that really didn't have to happen.
A lot of...
An angry man with a funny mustache just couldn't stand the state of the world.
A lot of innocent people lost their lives needlessly.
So now we've brought the mood down a bit. Speaking of the Turn A Gundam, I am working on painting my custom one again.
Okay. Maybe I'll ask Decker to meme it.
Oh, it's only me.
Dummy, Gav, are you trying to get yourself killed?
If you can get Decker to make a quote out of it like he did when I said Red Man's a bitch, I'd be okay with that.
So if it wasn't you or him who freed the bears, who was it?
Good question.
No,
We
for
didn't
the
have our hands full fighting a bloody harpy, I guess. But what matters is they're safe. Something they wouldn't be had it not been for you, Gav.
Just doing my job, like. So, what about his dominant?
We were so close.
we actually get the red instead of the blue.
Why would you?
Sid told us about your family.
So did you see what I put in the
He's known to Imperial
general
Steel.
chat with red?
Sometimes vengeance is
Thank you.
Like I only just put it there, so
No,
probably not.
Yeah, I was posting the links, so
These are my headcanon units for her possible story purposes later on.
interesting.
My lady, you have to hold on. We're going to get you.
Go. What am I going to do? Barnabas?
How long to the coastal road?
Assuming the pictures have loaded properly, because they were starting to give me a little bit of struggle.
All the others. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
They loaded. Oh! Shit!
Carol.
Well, Final Fantasy just did a thing.
Benedicta was escaping from the fort with her men, and
What do we have here?
Ruh-roh.
That's a good price, I reckon.
But we'd be doing the slavers a disservice if we didn't praise her work.
Oh God, this got dark.
It's all right.
Wait, how Game of Thrones is this game gonna go? Like, that's what I want to know. Benedicta is running away from the fortress with her men after she got her ass kicked,
Let's go.
and then all of her men were just slaughtered by tomahawks, and then 3 dudes showed up
Is this it, Adolphus?
talking about
For not listening.
how she'll fetch a good price. Oh, wait.
I'm going to further her.
Wait, hold on. Something happened. The wind has picked up. I think she still has her powers.
It all deserves to die! Die!
Oh, here we go. Okay, so I think she blew away the slavers, and she just turned into Garuda. Brain blast. Yeah, I know, right?
If I may.
Sorry, I just like it went from being really dark to, oh no, a kaiju.
Oh no! Anyways,
By the flames.
I also just realized Benedicta's been sleeping around because she was fucking Titan, she was fucking the king. Apparently she had been fucking Sid at one point.
She can't control it. If Garuda's in Scott, that vortex will swallow this whole forest. And along with it.
anyways,
And Armorhide says, "Oh good, I was worried this game was going to show sexual assault. Thank God it didn't."
Damn it, lad. That doesn't mean you have to listen. I should have gone with Gav.
so what I was saying about the Turn A and the Dark Gundam here. The Dark Gundam had 3 special abilities, thanks to it being made of its own type of nanomachines.
That's not just
Yeah, nanomachines, son, yada yada. Moving on.
Benedicta's rage knows no bounds.
These abilities were to self-heal,
I know what's waiting inside.
self-multiply,
I do.
and self-evolve.
I have to find out.
This is why Master Asia at the time was shouting that now that it hits revives with all of the knowledge of what killed it last time stored in its computer, so it's going to further evolve past that. That's why I stroll up in the Turn A, saying, allow me to introduce myself. The Dark Gundam's whole shtick is regenerating and evolving past the thing that last challenged it. The Turn A gives no fucks about what the Dark Gundam shtick is, and will just nom it before it has a chance to even process what's going on.
Alright, so I found a way so that you can actually see what I'm doing in the voice chat. I turned on my camera, but instead I switched it to the game capture device so you can see what I'm doing. Since I can't share the PlayStation screen. Also, question.
Okay.
If the Turn A beats Dark Gundam, wouldn't it, like, regenerate and, like, come up with a way to beat the Turn A?
That's assuming there's anything left of the Dark Gundam to regenerate.
You know what? That's fair.
Because, again, remember, Turn A's shtick is basically taking any weapon and turning it to dust. The Dark Gundam shtick is being a regenerating living weapon.
Can the Turn A turn, like, organic material to dust? Like,
Ask Jim Gingham in the final episode and find out.
you know what? Yeah. Where did
He
you
refused to let go of his sword when the nanomachine tendrils started grabbing at it, got pulled in, and you don't see what happens, but you hear what sounds like him choking on his own blood.
Jesus. Also, what do you mean new mech images? I have to. Hold on. Is it in Cast Ranger? Is it in spoiler chat? I'm gonna check spoiler chat. Yo! Yo! Holy shit! So, okay, So, alright, King Oger, so, ever since the show started, people in Cast Ranger have been saying that the castle of Shugodum, the kingdom of the main character, the Red Ranger, is going to become a Zord because it just looks like it's going to be a Zord, right? And according to these leaked images, pick up the phone because they fucking called it.
Ah, just like the crazy people who were saying Eri was in the Gundam.
Yep. I mean, are they really crazy people now? If they were confirmed to be right?
Yes, but now they are correct crazy people.
Fair.
And yes, while that is technically a spoiler for Witch from Mercury, at this point, that show has been spoiled so heavily front to back, I don't really care much anymore.
So yeah, the Red Ranger's castle is gonna become a mech, and like I like, it looks good. And combined with Extreme King Oger, like, oh, that is gonna be a real clusterfuck. Looks like the Battle Axe Zord from the horn on God King Oger's helmet. What?
Beetle.
Looks like the... Oh, Beetle! Oh, yeah, you're right! That must be, the like... Okay, so the... So... It must be, like... The power-up form's, like, own unique... robot.
Share one other thing I was doing here. I've got 2 paint projects going simultaneously.
Okay.
Remember how I mentioned the other night that my Wyndham was the odd one out now that I've painted the Strike Dagger and the Dagger L?
Yes.
Not for much longer. So, yeah, what did you think of the extra Freedom Gundam units that I posted in the,
They look good. They look pretty good, dude.
Fun fact, the unit 3 colors are basically how a Freedom would look if I used the spare runners from the Helios Gundam to build it, instead of the ones that came in the, actual kit box.
Ah.
Basically, if I opened a Freedom Gundam and a Helios at the same time, but only used the runners from the Helios for, like, the external armor and the, wings.
Armor hide, unlikely. Also, that's pretty cool, dude.
the shield is over quickly.
Alright, well, before I go and do that, I'm going to head back to the hideout, or the hideaway, and stock up on potions. Because I'm out. I only realized that because, it turns out I was, when I was trying to, like, switch, summons, or switch powers, I was accidentally using my potions. Because I was hitting the wrong buttons.
Yeah. I think I've finally got kind of what my actual endgame mobile suit for Build Divers is gonna be. And I'll be teasing it throughout. Says we have an EL diver in our party who as has been established in both shows, can hear the thoughts of Gunpla, quote unquote.
Rubbing me blind, you know. You'll not find a better price than
I can just imagine. Ours is tilting her head in confusion at my machine, and we're like, what's wrong? And she says, it's, this one is strange.
better I'll be here.
Keeps asking for a mustache?
Rubbing me blind, you know. Finished, are
Well, sorry, would it be? Not bad, if I do say so myself.
And of course, because out of context, it sounds so weird. It's gonna take a while for people to understand. But oh, the reactions we're gonna see when they finally do understand is gonna be priceless.
You can thank me later. My best work, but it'll do.
Keep accidentally crafting weapons at the blacksmith when I mean to reinforce them. So now I have to go back and sell the fucking sword that I don't need.
I'll be thankful you got that much.
You want green?
Come again. Or don't.
Kind of funny. For both my projects, I feel like I am like flipping the script. In one case, I'm taking green and turning it blue, and on the other, I'm taking the blue and turning it green. Turn A is going to be a lot more complex to actually get through, though.
I'm not much bothered either way.
Kraken says, you mean you have the script and it's laminated?
Do I want something
Yeah,
done
that's-
with my check this week?
Yeah, that's a running joke we've had since we first saw the old Mobile Suit Gundam Abridged. First episode, when Amuro finds what was the Gundam's instruction manual in the original story, instead, he finds the script for the series.
Have you come for a
No,
tale?
your brother doesn't die.
Perhaps you have one of your own.
And his reaction is, wait, what's this? is this the script? And out loud he says, it's laminated?
There is a rather fascinating excerpt I've been meaning to show you.
When Fraubo finds him, he's muttering to himself, Hayato? Who in their right mind would marry Hayato?
Tones?
Hey, your mother doesn't die. He was like, what? He's like, I said nothing, it's fine. I'm almost afraid to ask if there was any more bubble bugs.
Thankfully, no.
Okay.
The door to the shelves shall ever be open.
For once, Red's been quiet for a night.
I don't know how much, Claire's been reading the bubbles there or not, because starting to sense a pattern. When Protag-kun here recognizes that there's somebody with a way more interesting something going on in the plot, he's got to nerf that as fast as possible, because they can't compete with him.
Like, say, entering a Gundam story by... Like, okay, so... Entering the previous draft of Gundam Build Divers with a frigging rider kick to a griefer.
I'm still mad about that.
You have every right to be!
He kneecaps everybody. I noticed that. I'm like, is it just people he thinks will be unfortunately possibly more interesting than him? And so is this just his way of dealing with, like, threat control? Or, like, is it specific characters? You know what I mean? Because, like, he had to kneecap Bardock mid-introduction. Like, our introduction to him gets completely derailed because we can't spend 5 minutes seeing how awesome this new person is without having to be reminded that, you know, Red is a...
Oh, this is my fight with my griefer.
Universe over here. We have to feel sad for him.
Also,
Dude, Walker would look at you and say, suck it up.
Armorhide, I would say save your money and be responsible,
Absolutely certain.
but also put a little bit aside so that you can buy more King Oger stuff.
Watched as the flames of his icon took Joshua.
It's like the Omniverse thing, like, the character of Zack. He's supposed to be a plumber and he's supposed to be in hiding. And this could have been... It could have made him way more interesting and way more something, and I think he knew that. And so this is why Zack's secret has to come out in, like, the first 5 minutes, because actually having to have him play duplicity for a couple of chapters as he tries to figure out how to give his friends enough information to not get, like, into too much trouble when they're out dealing with things, but also not so much information that he's now crossed the line of, like, need to know and I can't tell you that. You know, like, it could have been interesting to watch how that played out. We get none of it because, don't you know, we can't be bothered to deal with having to worry about how the character Zack has to skirt the line between his friends and his job. Nah, we're gonna out him in the first 5 minutes. I mean, like, that being said, I don't necessarily have an issue with him using the alien he goes to eventually discover that his friend's been lying to him. I'm just gonna go, at this point, we have no basis for him to even think to spy for Andrew to spy on Zack at this point. Because the only reason he decides, hey, we need to go and spy on Andrew is because Sean has the plot laminated in his back pocket and he's poking him with a, hey, I think he's up to something, we should go check that.
Armorhide, only if you can recover from this financial decision. Only if you can recover from it.
We've been talking about the Sentai season King Oger for a while.
Like, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I just wanted to respond to Armorhide.
It's fine, dude. Trust us. We get it.
Yeah, no, but it's just like, it's not even the first time that Sean keeps Andrew on track of a nudge of, hey, I think we need to go and do this now, or hey, let me put this thought in your head. Because we're not only speedrunning the plot, we're apparently still somehow low-key meta about it, because these characters seem to have more information about what's going on than they reasonably should, given the situation. because the author clearly knows what's going on, but unfortunately he hasn't figured out how to dial that back so that the characters have some level of actual. Well, I don't know what that is. No, the author knows what it is, and he'll drop hints for you because he knows what it is, and he wants you to see it, but it's not done in a way that makes any level of sense for the characters to come back for later, or for them to have any of the thoughts that they do about, I think it's this thing that's going on. Alright, but why do you think that? You just got here.
Case in point for how I've managed to handle stuff, trying to do shit like this. And I only need to utter 2 words for a bear to get this. Horseshoe Bay.
Yes, because that's how ideally you should make your people ask more questions about, but wait, what's going on here? Is by giving them just enough information to kind of see a blurry picture, but not enough of the pieces yet to know what they're looking at, because that doesn't make them actually go back and find more pieces to try to figure out what they're looking at. That's how you keep them engaged. Besides the fact, I don't know, did you see, oh my goodness, did you see the conversation with, Command here in the bubbles?
No, I did not.
I don't know where Bear stopped in the bubbles, if he caught up to that patch of the newer stuff that we've seen or not.
I stopped where they found Ghost Freak.
Okay, yes, and then you've seen it because he basically comes to find you and go, alright, well you've been lying to us, tell us what you know is going on for having no reason to suspect you've been lying in the first place except that Sean told him so. Which how Sean knows this, I don't know. This is why I say Sean has the plot laminated in his back pocket, because he's clearly keeping people on track. For no reason other than apparently he can. But that whole conversation with Command.
Also, a little
if
thing
he
I've
had used sigil, which is a vocabulary word which is way too highbrow for an 8-year-old, I would have thought an 8-year-old wrote it. Like a couple of 8-year-olds actually a couple of 8-year-olds playing for names, Right? Come in, Command, we have a problem over here. This is Operative Zach. You okay, Operative Zach? This is Command. What's going on over here? I'm like, what? I'm like, this is a legit conversation in this thing right now. He wrote that and thought that sounded good enough. I'm like, Meanwhile, everything else about how this stuff is written in a way that has to be. People just can't speak normally, and normal phrases can't be sufficient. Somehow we have to try to use ways to say things.
Not to interrupt again, but Armorhide, we are talking about a story that a mutual friend wrote.
A mutual friend who likes to write things as if they were RPs between people, even when people say, no, we don't want to do that.
Yep.
I think
partly because I don't think he knows how to write anything any other way.
But also, like, it's just everything he's written is this weird skirting of the line of attempting to. It's still written, but it's still relying on attempting to frame the scenes that he writes as something you can see. Like, it's not far enough into actual written word enough to actually give you enough detailed information to make you visualize that yourself, but it also isn't an actual visual medium, so you can't see the thing, but he's going to describe to you the scene that he's copying as if you can see it.
Also, Kraken, your thought of a better name for his Ghost Freak transformation? You know what? Screw it. I'm taking the name she thought up.
What? Okay. First of all, what was the name he used?
Poltergap.
What was the name you came up with?
Polterheist. Because he steals your body. Polterheist.
Oh, it's so much better.
I'm like, 5 more minutes. He was on the right track. He just needed 5 more minutes in the oven, and you already got there. Oh. It's like as soon as he said that's his name, I'm like, that's what his name is, and I'm like, it bothered me, but I couldn't figure out why. And then like after 5 more, I'm like, because I think I could have made something else. Because I could see what he was going for when he also was dropping all the other names that he was trying to think of for things for later down the line. And I'm like, well, this is the kind of thing that you're going for, where it's kind of a thing, but not quite the thing. This would have fit.
And like, you don't even have to name it poltergeist in the context of he stole my body and took control once. One of Ghost Freak's powers, being a ghost, is that he overshadows people. So you can take someone else's body for that, and then come up with the name.
You know, just he does like what poltergeists do. They can kind of pick and throw things. They take like the whole kind of shtick there. I'm like, huh.
A malicious ghostly entity. That is effectively what he is.
I mean, he could have gotten there with that kind of a name for it too if he... I don't necessarily have an issue with him using Ghost Freak to find out that you're kind of a double... that the character Zack is a double agent. You know, like he wants to spy on somebody, so he's like, I'm gonna do it this way because this is sneaky. I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with everything happening way too early. Because they haven't been given enough reason to suspect that Zack is lying to them, enough to even think to go after him in any way. And I actually thought it would have been... This is where, like I said, it's sad feelings and you get some level of frustration. Because Zack could have been interesting if I remember correctly in the bubbles, he's not actually the one tasked with finding the Omnitrix. It just happens to land kind of where you guys are hanging out. But that only brought up a couple of questions in my head, because I'm like, if you're this close to the situation and they know that it's coming in, why haven't you been told to go get it? Like, even if it's just an emergency, oh shit, it's actually landing somewhere that we weren't predicting. Hey, you're already over here, go get that. Because you have a badge, and you know, like, Zack has a badge, and Zack has all the training, so, like, he just would need to make an excuse to go wander in the woods for 5 minutes and go find it if you think you already can kind of predict where the coordinates should be. So he's not playing interference by, last second, hey, look, you have new orders while you're out, go get that. But they also, did they send somebody else after it? Like, the way that he talks to like, that whole conversation, I just wanted to, like, hit my head against the wall for 2 seconds there, because I'm just like, this only makes it make less sense.
The more you think about it.
The more you think about it. Because if he wasn't then tasked with coming after the Omnitrix since he's in the area, I imagine somebody else is. Now, whether it's just because this is somebody else's usual jurisdiction, whether it's because this other person who was actually sent after it outranks you, and so that's why they got it over, like, you know, priority and chain of command here, which you could have set up as this person being antagonistic too, especially if you go, this is a person you don't necessarily like, he doesn't like you, he outranks you, you know, so you guys have some beef between each other, like the guy and Zack, and, you know, so when you run into him, now that you've kind of accidentally botched his mission because your friend has gotten there from sheer curiosity before he got there to pick it up, you know, and you're in the area, and he already doesn't like you for, say, a past mission that also already got bungled. You know, now he's going, are you trying to mess with my stuff, or what is this? You know, like, did you do this on purpose? Or did you think that if you got your friend attached to it, you could finally get, like, the big mission that would make you somebody, you know, like, you can make this guy as antagonistic as possible if you want to, and he could even come back later as just the other plumber you run into.
The guy trying to get you fired.
Yeah, you know, like, but that also would make more sense if
he could have been a plumber's version of Crowler.
Because he would have some level of justification in being annoyed with you because he was supposed to come out here and get his mission and be able to keep on going with whatever else he's supposed to be able to do, and now stuff has gotten messed up. So people can still go, yeah, he shouldn't be taking his frustration out on Zack, but we understand why he's taking this frustration out on, because it's just like, this is a high level thing that was not supposed to get messed up, and here we are. But that could have been, you know, like, Zach runs into this guy, like say they're walking back through the woods and they run into this guy and he sees you and he knows you and you know him and you're like, oh crap. And so he tries to have to go, you're like, oh, because he starts talking about him like, oh, I didn't realize you were here, and they're like, you know this guy? And Zach's like, yeah. I completely forgot he lives out this way. I met this guy playing a game online, and you know, like, you just want to go right ahead back to the campsite, start making some more s'mores. I'm gonna be there in like, just give me a couple minutes. I'll be right behind you. And they're like, all right, cool. And so they wander back to the.
Alternatively, oh, he's a coworker. Not lying, but not the full truth.
You know, or even also if they're like, oh, well, just bring him back for s'mores. No, that's okay. He really can't.
He's
stand
allergic to chocolate.
Yeah, like, yeah. He's here with other people or something. You make some level of excuse, either him or this new character or both of you.
Oh, so he hates fun. Okay.
Or just that he's trying to have a conversation with you and he doesn't want to get tied into dealing with you and whoever these two knuckleheads are for the next 3 hours. You know what I mean? He's got stuff to do, man. You know, some of which is stuff you've just got him messed up, because if you're all walking back together and he can see the Omnitrix on one of your arm and you're here, he's going, what did you just do to my mission? And so they had that conversation. What did you just do to my mission? Well, look, actually, I only just wandered into this too. I had no idea it was coming. Headquarters didn't tell me anything, you know, and my
Technically
friend
speaking, I did nothing to your mission.
We found it. You know, so then they have to call into HQ and have a natural way to call into HQ and have that conversation of, all right, well now who's got to do what? Because this guy is annoyed that you messed up his mission, and they're, you know, trying to get him to follow around your friend is going to be pain. Maybe he's still going to, like, keep some low-key surveillance behind all of you, if that's his new batch of orders, that maybe we don't actually see him be given. Obviously, you find him popping up later going, I think he's following us. He's like, crap, he's probably surveilling us. Headquarters must be suspicious that I'm not doing my job. And so that could be extra pressure on Zach too, because he's got to skirt that line between what do I need to tell you to make sure you don't wind up getting in over your head in some of these situations with other aliens, but also, what do I tell headquarters if you do something that I know will totally get you in trouble and I can't cover for that, but should I cover for that? And how do I give you information organically in a way that doesn't raise your suspicions? That how do you even know any of that, while still not actively seeing the HQ? I didn't give civilians confidential information. That's not how that goes. Or I'm only feeding them the stuff that they need to know as they need to know. Like, this is where I said, he sniffed out that this character would have been more interesting and had to know from him in like 5 minutes. Because you could have had that where he had going back and forth, especially also if that's the guy that's now his go between him and headquarters. You have to report back to this dude, even though now, well, since it's your friend, the most organic place for a plumber to watch the Omnitrix now is from somebody who already isn't suspicious in the first place. This is how some people who are supposed to go undercover work very hard to take their identities and like worm their way into the good graces of people they're supposed to be keeping eyes on.
I'm having
you already know this dude. You're already friends with him. He won't think anything.
Rants in progress. Please hold.
If you actually, I just want to get the thought out of him. But like, he won't think twice if you're confident. Hey, you know what? Actually, you know, I took a little time off of work. You know, you guys said you were gonna go on this road trip, right? You know, is it still too late to jump in? And they're like, yeah, dude, cool, come on. You know, like, and so now we can still get him in there where he's supposed to be, as he's still doing, like, this is where I get frustrated, because this could have been interesting to watch it play out. But we can't have that, because don't you know, if any other character in this trio is special, then the character Andrew's not special by extension. Because we can't all be special with something, even if it's one thing. Nobody else is allowed to be interesting or any more interesting than the main character, and there is a right and a wrong answer to that. Because Zach might have been more interesting to people, or as interesting to people as the dude with the Omnitrix. We have to automatically, like, make him uninteresting as quick as possible.
Like, there's a reason Grandpa Max is considered so well written in the original show.
Because Zach could have been Grandpa Mac for this in the
Grandpa Zach.
Grandpa Zach, yes. Especially if he also hadn't gone out of his way to mention that there was nothing in the pod when Zach went looking into it. He could have eventually down the line pulled out, for all intents and purposes, the plumber's handbook with like all of your alien species covered in individual chapters in here, and been like, oh, hey, this weird thing was in the box, and you know, like, I put it on the shelf, and it seemed to rewrote itself in English, you know, like, since it was near other books written in English, like, this must be some kind of alien tech of, like, this answers the owner's manual is something you can't read? Well, I guess they made an owner's manual that was smart enough to put itself back into the original, like, I don't know. You don't even know what the thing on your arm is. It's not that implausible that maybe the book's made out of something similar, and see, here's your information. In a way that, you know, Andrew and Sean don't think anything of it, because for all they know, this thing, you know, we don't know what we're dealing with in the first place. Oh good, it comes with a handbook. You know, and they didn't actually see into the pod that there was nothing else in there. So they have no reason to think that he would lie about that. And this is a way for him to go, here, let me sneak in some information to make sure you kind of, like, don't cause any incidents that don't have to happen while we try to travel around and figure out what we're doing here. Especially once we start realizing that there are other things following us that want this. Because, you know, you're going to need to be able to defend yourself.
Particularly one squid-headed SOB that won't take no for an answer.
You know, like, but he could use that to his advantage somehow of, you know, like, it could have been interesting. It isn't, because it has to die in 5 minutes. So this is where we get Sean with his laminated plot synopsis in his back pocket, keeping people on track of, you know, like, we have no reason to think Zach's hiding anything, but he's got to poke Andrew with that, you know, I think he's hiding something. We should go see what he's hiding.
And also apparent
why?
hatred of this individual that's supposed to be their friend.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't know. I'm guessing he was attempting to lay groundwork for someone to be suspicious enough of Zach for them to go looking for what he's hiding in the first place. But it very much comes across almost as if Sean dislikes Zach for reasons we don't actually get to see. But, like, he very, very pointedly tells Zach that you don't know Andrew the way I know Andrew. Automatically gatekeeping the, yeah, you know, you're newer to this friendship than we are because we were a duo until you showed up and became a trio, and you'll never get close to the original because you weren't here from the beginning. You know, like, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I don't know if that was supposed to be there, but I got those vibes off of that. And then when they,
Is this how you see us, Red?
I don't know, because they're having what's apparently a non-argument about deciding whether or not they should go after Andrew in the first place. Because Zach's like, nah, dude, like, he's probably fine. He'll probably come back to the campsite. But Sean's like, no, we gotta go find him. And, you know, like, for all we know, he could have been out here next to something. He's gonna go straight towards whatever that was that landed. He might get himself hurt because he just doesn't pay attention to shit. You know, no, we gotta go find him. And Zach's like, all right, fine. Zach seems to concede that point of, all right, well, I guess we'll go looking for him because he hasn't come back recently. But Sean has to hold up the finger of like, and I'm not taking any arguments. We're gonna go find him, and that is final. And I'm like, I didn't think he was necessarily arguing with you in the first place. But the fact that that's gonna be your exasperated, kind of annoyed reaction to him of, no, we're doing my thing because I'm not arguing over this. Have you guys gotten into arguments before? Do you make a habit out of having blowout arguments? Like, I'm like, I get the distinct feeling that Sean and Zach have beef somewhere, and I don't know what it is. I don't think they're supposed to have beef, but I see it.
I have no beef. Waffle is beefless.
What is, that's why I was going to ask him, like, am I the only one that got that impression off of that? Because I'm like, is that, because we were reading that, and I told Sean, like,
Holy shit, it's Odin.
Is it just me, or did you see that?
Ah, flashbacks.
Oh,
playing Final Fantasy 16, and Odin just showed up.
oh my god, Bonnie, I was
Of course.
So, on a completely other story tangent,
Quickle's breath fill your wings.
We will try to be as brief as possible. I apologize for constantly derailing this stuff with this.
Holy shit, it's Bahamut!
Yeah, they're all here.
so
I mean, like, while you guys were going on your rant, I was in the middle of a kaiju fight with Garuda as Ifrit.
Oh.
And then Ramu showed up to stop after I killed Garuda. And now, fucking Bahamut and Odin are fighting each other.
yeah, so as briefly as I can say this, my very first D&D campaign, and it's still ongoing, is DM'd by Red, who is trying to do a hybrid of Dungeons and Dragons and Final Fantasy, despite the fact that such a module already exists.
He's making his own. He's allowed to try one. But
He's mixing several D&D games in together, and he really doesn't seem to understand that Zeus and Odin are not the same individual.
yeah, because Odin was there, but Odin was written like stereotypical Zeus. Like, I just. Which, if that's the kind of thing you want to go with in your version, okay, fine. I still have several issues with how shit played out, regardless. But all you need to know is that Odin thinks it's funny to try to threaten and, like, browbeat down anyone who dares talk back to him. Except, of course, for the Berserker Barbarian lady. You know, when she talks back to him, it's just funny.
The cleric and the bard, they get the popo silence maggot instantly when they try opening their mouths.
But she's just funny. He's also actively kind of like...
Why are people not scared of me? I
Puffing
want
like
people scared of me.
He's puffing like a rattlesnake in everyone's face. And they have fought a couple of gods at this point in the campaign.
We had one as a materia at this point.
This does not get the barbarian's hackles up for a fight because it's clearly starting to try to look threatening over here. She still thinks he's funny even though he's actively threatening the rest of her companions.
This is after the barbarian goes through a character arc where she finally tries to essentially become a paladin and take up an oath that, upon speaking with my character personally, basically involves protecting the party as the party is my family.
So she sees this dude threatening her family and isn't immediately like, you gotta stop this, bro, I'm gonna deck you in the schnoz. No, she just thinks the whole thing's funny. Odin thinks it's kind of funny at first as she starts to give him an existential crisis. I don't necessarily know if I had an issue with them turning some of his worldview on his head. I just feel like it probably should have been the bard and the cleric who should have pointed some of that out, because some of that's maybe a little higher up than, like...
Also, the way the encounter went, there should have been a friggin' fight!
Like, it started to load up completely like PS2 boss fight of, you know what? I'm gonna make the world fear Odin again, you know? Starting with you! That's the in parentheses, starting with you, because as he's going on this rant of, you know, the world's lost, you know, the world has no respect for me anymore, and I'm gonna change their minds because, you know, like, I am Odin, and I am power, and I will make anyone who doesn't see it bow down before my greatness, you know, like, he's totally expecting to be like, yes, and the boss fight loads, you know, like, and I'm gonna make humanity fear me again.
Starting with you.
Enter the boss fight. Nope. And I'm gonna make humanity fear me again, and then abruptly turns into a ball of light and becomes the
Materia.
He becomes the materia for the barbarian lady. Because don't you know she was just so dang funny that, you know, like, yeah, he's just gonna totally follow her around.
Meanwhile, he's making me make Faustian bargains with an elder blue dragon that got turned back into an egg.
So if you could possibly have Bahamut and Odin fight each other, I will wait to see if he decides to try that later on, considering you guys are both attached to each other. Harmony has Odin and you have Bahamut, right?
But it is
I have
you are,
nobody.
not
Oh, you have.
myself.
Who's the dragon that you have?
It's our sorcerer who has Ifrit.
You and I.
Oh. Why do I always feel like when he's making the dragon talk, he's talking to you?
Because that's not Ifrit talking.
Oh. He's not clear with some of that stuff,
That's
so that's why I'm confused.
That's the Elder Blue Dragon that got turned back into an egg that I made my Faustian bargain with.
Okay. I thought that was one of the dragons he gave a name
A
already.
bargain that I won, that every instinct in my head was screaming, decline, 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 decline. Only I saw the writing on the wall and realized there is no saying no.
No, I was gonna say you're going decline, decline, and Red just walks over and goes, ooh, accept.
Right, he just keeps circling back until you go, nope, alright, you declined at this instance, but we'll bring it back again over here. Oh, we'll bring it back again over there.
And I thought that fuck from Madoka Magica was persistent.
Like, yeah, someone is totally getting struck with lightning. Ay, ay. But
And
yeah,
here-
like some...
Here I thought the fuck from Madoka Magica was persistent. Holy shit.
Contract? Damn it, he's back.
Right? Exactly. Now, oh my goodness. Yeah, you know, there's no arguing with Cube. Cube will just come back for you later. But, like, it's...
I'm assuming the UC
I
fan
can't
that
even
didn't
remember
like
it
me.
well enough to paraphrase it, but, like, I'm sitting here on the floor listening to them go through this conversation with Odin with a giant Cheshire Cat grin on my face. Not because it's actually interesting, but it's the bad end of funny where I am like, I am trying not to laugh at how ridiculous this is, and I am like half failing at it. So I'm just sitting out there like with a big nervous going, what the fuck am I listening to, and why does it sound like that? Because nobody sounds like they actually are the person they're supposed to be right now.
It's why whenever the cleric can't be there in person to play his character, I try to find an excuse to not play. Because the cleric so far, having had past experience as a DM, he is the only one who's managed to keep Red on a leash.
I totally wonder what would have happened
The best work.
if Harmony actually had failed that encounter and you guys had their barbarian get eaten.
Anything else?
I wonder what he would do then if he no longer has a character.
Either bullshit a way to revive her, or flat out end the world, I guess.
Right, Harmony's gone, we can't continue, you're missing a person essential to the plot. Wait, what? I didn't think that was how that worked. Nope. She's essential to the plot. Alright.
To the point where the last several weeks have been him asking for advice on how to buff her up so she's not as easily killed. He's realized, oh crap, she's a bit too squishy for her own good.
Hmm.
I'll be thankful you got that much. You
No,
got
I walked away for 2 seconds. and
Because, like, you want to know what the only two reasons that Harmony survived that encounter were?
that encounter took forever, so I was just like, holy crap.
The two factors that allowed Harmony to survive were A, the Cthulhu-looking motherfucker having a bad roll, and me happening to use my overdrive and getting an effect instead of damaging the opponents. I ended up giving everybody temporary hit points,
You're not gonna go mad
because
again, are
mine
ya?
has different effects depending on the number I roll.
Odin and Bahamut had
Yeah, like if you hadn't done that, and if the cleric hadn't shot off his Hail Mary there, like Harmony would have been dead at the end of that encounter. Though I walked away for 2 seconds when you guys were doing that, so I missed the part where you rolled for which one of you guys does it attack. I thought he just picked Harmony because Harmony's the special squishy thing that's his.
No.
Of course it attacks her.
So
No,
wait.
He had to roll to determine which one of us got attacked.
Alright, at least
So
he's
is-
fair about it. My other brain, the other part of it is going, oh, Harmony's getting attacked by a thing that wants to eat her brain, and my brain, my only thought is, what brain?
So down, happens
She
to
hasn't
the best
been
of us.
demonstrated to be the brightest bulb in the shed here, so I'm like, what brain are you trying to eat?
Okay, wait. Is Harmony Red's like character?
Yes.
Harmony is Red's DMPC.
Oh no.
Can be hard to
Yeah,
follow
that's what.
sometimes,
Then see, this is
right?
why that was my first thought of. Oh, okay. Well, of course it attacks his character because it's got to attack somebody. No, okay, they were fair, but they did roll for it. Okay, fine.
You're not
You have to-
as a
We-
DM, you're
we
not
didn't
supposed to
roll for it,
do
Red
that.
did, because Red was the one also having to roll for the creature fighting us.
What subject shall we consider?
Yeah, because for a while there, everybody was getting bad rolls. It was just like, this is not going to end well. But yeah, no, this is why. But that's so. Then when you have that information, you can imagine how the conversation with Odin went. Then when of course she's the one that he's laughing off and laughing at because she's just amusing in her blatant disrespect and just utter obliviousness to how awesome he is. Yeah, like he starts to give. That's how he starts to get his existential crisis of, but if I'm not threatening anymore, then maybe I need to go make the world remember why I'm threatening. So that's why he decides to join them. Boss fight skipped. It's like, all right then.
And again,
Because she's still disappointed that he didn't give her his sword.
and again, like the cleric who knows of this god and is trying to keep him happy gets shushed by said god.
The bard with
The
the
bard
charisma
with the-
skills to actually have talked his way into giving him the existential crisis also gets shot down every time he opens his mouth. Nah, just the fact that Harmony's sitting there going, I don't believe you, and that's funny, is enough to make this centuries, possibly 1,000-year-old god suddenly rethink all of his life choices. We're like, alright then.
I
I'm
will.
sitting here going, I don't even. That was one of the first times I actually bothered listening, and I'm like, I don't think I even know fully what this woman's personality is supposed to be like. And even I can already sit here going, I don't think that's how she normally sounds. Is this how this really goes?
From experience here, I think she has multiple personalities because her characterization has not been consistent in the least since we started.
She does whatever will facilitate the most
Her-
the most lulls or the most awesomeness.
Her
Either roll a cool or man, that's funny.
her personality is plot device. That is what she is. Her personality is plot device. She is the MacGuffin that gets people moving.
Preferably in the right direction, even if that doesn't necessarily make sense.
I will reiterate that
Even slash especially when the plot isn't even about her.
I will reiterate what Red did is something you're not supposed to do as a DM.
Otherwise, your character,
Go to the
like if you make a
shadows
person,
forever.
they're usually still, you make the background people who give you the quests and things, right? Instead of chugging along with everybody else. Otherwise, if you're going to chug along with everybody else, you have to understand that you need to be background fodder,
You want to know why
not the
Harmony was
main
there in the first
character
place?
of the troop here, because you're already the
You want to
GM.
know? You want to know why Harmony was there in the first place?
Why?
Because otherwise, our party would have consisted of 2 people.
Maybe 3 if the cleric actually gets.
The cleric hadn't been there yet. The cleric wasn't introduced yet. It was me and our sorcerer.
So he's beefing up the party by having one more person.
And now that we have the cleric there, technically speaking, Harmony is kind of redundant. And only sticks around because now she actually has a backstory and and multiple personalities to work with.
Yeah, I take issue with some of the rest of that shit too, but I'm not gonna get into that rabbit hole either. Oh yeah, we're not getting into that rabbit hole either.
To put it in Gundam terms, he wants her to be a cyber new type.
Oh, lovely.
Even though it makes very little sense for how everything else is supposed to have gone on so far, as we understand it. So, world building and consistency is born. If it's cool, I'm putting it in here. Alright
So
then.
yeah, you're not supposed to do that as a DM. Like I've seen plenty of D&D horror stories or just RPG horror stories where the GM has done something like that and is immediately called out for it by the person reading the story.
Well, I
So-
mean, like, I don't necessarily think it's the problem that he has a person running around with you. I think it's his inability to have that person be non-important and do nothing but follow and maybe help with some fights. That is the problem. Because instead of letting you guys lead the story and do whatever it is you want to do, now he's still using her to drag you in the direction he wants to go when he's supposed to be facilitating you guys doing what you want to do, not the other way around.
Okay, so now it's time for me to go on a tangent. So, in my Kamen Rider D&D game, which is in 3 days, next session at least, I have 2 characters that I control. One is the Wind God, named Paz, named after Pazuzu.
Okay.
This character is not a fighter. He is essentially their well, I say mentor figure, but he's
the Zordon of this story.
Then yeah, he'd be a mentor. It's fine.
Yeah,
He's the one teaching you guys how to go about doing your things.
exactly. And the other is a character based off, well, me, because what we were originally doing was that our characters were facsimiles of ourselves. Different names, different appearances, but our personalities were similar enough. And
I walked it.
it's
I don't know how
fun.
you didn't like him, but it's fine.
I mean, with you introduced, it like we can finally play with the whole multiverse shit.
And that's why I'm not breaking anything.
So the other character, the other character is me, who is currently missing. Eventually they're gonna find my character because he was originally supposed to be with the others as they showed up at Cyclone, Cafe Cyclone, but that didn't happen. Eventually they're gonna find me in another universe, and it's actually gonna be like the Callan that they know, and not just like a Callan from a different reality. It's gonna be the one they know. As a bear-themed rider, helping out a water-themed rider who is hydrophobic.
Alrighty then.
I'm scared of my own powers, maggot.
I almost drowned when I was 6, and now I hate water.
That is essentially his story. Like Commodore Aqua, I love Aqua. He's a really good character, but his backstory is essentially he's afraid of water, but his powers are based on water.
Right? It's like, you're gonna get over this fear kicking and screaming. The universe
So-
has a twisted sense of humor.
My character is trying to help him out, and also help defend his dimension from threats. While he is like trying to, overcome his fear and get used to the powers. And because of that, my character does not initially join the group. He stays behind to help out Kamen Rider Aqua. And for the most part, my character is just going to be around. Every now and then they may end up encountering me, but for the most part, my character is a non-factor.
Yeah. Because you do what you set out to do, and that's all that you're here for.
Yes.
That's fine.
Because I don't want to make a character like... I don't want to make an overpowered character and make it all about them. Like a certain someone might do.
Well, because any amount of normalcy is just like a dirty word, because normal is boring, don't you know? And so they can't just have one thing that makes them slightly different and have them use that in ways that makes them more interesting. Now they have to be special like 6 ways to Sunday, so that like...
The difference between my writing style and Red's when it comes to main character creation can be summed up with an exchange from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 video game. Black Cat shouts, "Why would you want to be normal? Normal is boring." Spidey replies, "Normal is half my life."
You know, like, because sometimes the fun is just watching people who are more or less normal deal with things that are so far out of the normal that, like, they read your Ryan's, like, everything that they think they know and the way they think about things.
There's a reason people like seeing characters get pushed out of their comfort zone, and that is effectively what you're doing with quote-unquote normal characters.
This is why the Bionicle thing never got off the ground, because, he
refused to just be a
issues.
normal Toa of Fire.
He took issues with some of, the character choices. Well, I think he took issue with the fact that he didn't get to be the most special Tamatoran before he became a
Toa.
That he could be, and that he wasn't automatically de facto leader, because I had the 3 new Toa run into a smattering of...
Yeah. The 3 new Toa, the rookies, one of fire, one of water, one of earth.
But they ran into, and kind of got drafted and became part of a team with 3 older, more experienced Toa.
One of gravity, one of plant life, who is still old. The running joke is, why is he not a Turaga yet? And one of psionics.
Psionics, yes. So she's like a mind thing. She's kind of the de facto leader at this point. Or at least that's what I kind of figured, because she kind of was somewhat in charge of the last group because her and the Gravity Toa were part of one team.
She's experienced, and by nature of her element, she's immune to manipulation.
And then the Toa of Plant Life is kind of his own man. He kind of comes from his own travels. So
Like,
even the experienced ones kind of come from 2 separate teams. So we're blending everybody in here. But because he's not allowed to be the most special and tweaked out, like, Toa... Well,
because
issue with this too, but
because he's not
separate.
allowed to be the main character.
Well, he still kind of is, but he did, let's just say he didn't like some of my plans for, I guess, some of his character arc.
Keep in mind, his idea of a main character is based off super robots.
I know, and when I tried to dial it back and go, no, that's not how this works. Especially if you go, part of your arc was realizing that you just assumed you'd be leader because Toas of Fire are always leaders, and guess what? You need to take a step back and not be the leader this time, and that's some of your arc. He wasn't quite happy with that answer. He also took issue with the mask we gave him, which...
We gave him a Kanohi mask of amplification, which allows him to amplify traits of things he interacts with, but not traits his body naturally has. He cannot amplify his power of fire, for instance. However, he could amplify the force at which a pebble is kicked to start an avalanche.
Okay.
Because maybe now the pebble actually weighs, like, several tons instead of just, like, a couple ounces. Because he's amplified the weight of it.
Or the force at which it is moving.
That too, you know. Basically the answer we got to that was that we gave him a mask that he really can't do anything with.
The fuck?
Well, we gave you a mask you have to think your way around problems with, and because you can't immediately just Hulk smash it into the ground, it's suddenly useless?
I want you to keep in mind, his first 2 picks for masks were the fucking Mask of Life and the Mask of Time.
Because of
already called
course.
Well, because we already told him for the most part, depending on the masks we've kind of already seen, and or the really special ones that are kind of important to the plot, are off limits. So for everybody involved, we basically tried to make our own mask for them, including the 3 older Toa. They have masks that we kind of were like, all right, well, let's give them this for a power. Let's do that for a power.
Like, we made our own masks for a couple, and we used some of the lesser used / more obscure masks for the others. Our Toa of Earth has a mask of X-ray vision, so he can see the weak spots in the Earth itself to use as he sees fit. Our Toa of Water had a mask of tactics, which we made up basically to go, yeah, now she can form strategies on the fly, which is essentially an extension of how her mind already works. By taking in all the data at once and forming an immediate battle plan. Our Toa of Psionics had a mask of telepathy. Because of course. We also consider giving her a standard mask of shielding because, well, her mind is already shielded, so why not protect the body?
Right.
As for our Toa of Gravity, we gave him a mask of clairvoyance, which was part of his own character arc. That mask can show you things like the future, for instance, but it is not a mask easily controlled. We only know of one other Toa that has one of these masks, and by her own admission, it kind of works on its own.
It's also tied to some past shenanigans with the team that him and
our Toa of Psionics came from.
But I guess since he saw it, like, that's a more interesting mask. Why can't I have the one that comes along with the automatic, like, character trauma here? Because I think he took issue with the fact also that, like, I think he figured that some of the other older Toa were more interesting than his character was.
Why am I not the pity bug? Why am I not simultaneously overpowered and also the pity bug?
Basically.
Why am I not the center of attention?
Basically, well, because part of the Gravity Toa's arc is kind of
learning to accept new people in his life, because through that mask, basically showing him the future before it happened, he had to witness his team dying in front of him twice and was helpless to stop it.
Yeesh.
So some of his arc is also still basically coming to terms with basically refinding faith in that even if things don't work out quite the way that you want them to, or even when the really bad happens to you, that you can find a way forward through it and still.
This was an aspect.
Not quite that bad things happen for a reason, but just that even when the bad things happen, it's not. You don't have to give up on everything just because something horrible has happened.
One bad day does not mean your life is over.
Basically, because part of his arc is also in trying to make new connections with the new team that they're now part of, and allowing himself to actually let them in and become part of a team again after the worst thing that could possibly happen to a team of friends has already happened to him. Yeah, like that's part of his whole batch of growth, is in that, okay, you know, I can do this. I am allowed to go on and continue with new people, even though I've lost people. It's not a.
Amusingly enough, and this is something I just noticed, our Gravity Toa's arc is literally setting up, proving the opposite of the Joker's mentality. One bad day can drive a man crazy, and anyone will become like me. No, one bad day is not the end of your life. Pick up the pieces and move on.
And that it's okay to move on. That, like, by becoming part of this team and accepting in the new, the younger Toa, and becoming part of this team again, he is allowed to make new attachments with new people that mean the same to him as the people he lost, and that doesn't take away from the people that he's lost.
this was also kind of partially our Toa of Earth's arc as being the one who is least comfortable with the whole Toa thing out of the three newbies. He's looking for anyone he could kind of latch onto as a mentor and go, okay, you can show me the ropes. You've been around, you've seen a lot. And Earth and Gravity are similar elements in terms of the roles they play on a team. They are the powerhouses. They are the bulky wall that protects the rest.
But you know, like because I was trying to get everybody their own something. So even Red's character would have had his own little arc to kind of go through. You know, he's used to being, you know, the offense, the defender of everybody and stuff like that. Learning to be more of the one supporting the people doing the defending because
he's so used to being DPS, support has thrown him for a loop.
But like, part of his stuff is okay. Yes, well, you have combat experience. Learning to allow yourself to follow when you're so used to leading. Like, you know, he's used to being in charge of people. I'm making the decisions when we need to go and defend this point. I'm doing this. I'm the one actually fighting the things, you know. And you walk into this team, and all right, I'm gonna tell us what to do. Okay, you can try that, but you know, the Toa of Psionics over here, the psychic lady, she's seen some shit, and she's seen way more action than you guys have ever. You have to try to wrap your brain around how long they've been running around doing stuff.
She's been around for longer than some of us have been alive, Junior.
You know, like, at this point, you thought this last war that you went through was going to be, like, the end-all, be-all, because this is going to be post-Spirits Magna here. We're on Spirits Magna trying to avoid another war, for context.
So, from what I'm gathering, it's like... Alright, this is gonna take a bit of explanation, but... So, in the series that Power Rangers Samurai was adapted from, Shinkenger, similar to Samurai, they had introduced the idea that the Red Ranger was not the actual Red Ranger. He was, in fact, a shadow heir. Basically, he was put there as a decoy so that the true heir of the Shiba clan could practice the sealing art to finally put the bad guys away for good. In Shinkenger, there's no relation between the two, except until near the end of the series, where she adopts him as her son, which was really weird.
You'll become part of the clan anyway, whether you like it or not.
No, it's weirder because he's older than her.
Not from that.
But when she shows up and becomes the new Red Ranger, it's basically like, alright, he's not the Red Ranger anymore, I am, you have to listen to me and follow my orders, and the team more or less just didn't do that. Because her orders didn't make any sense. Because she didn't have any experience in combat or commanding the others. The Shadow Heir Red Ranger had more experience working with them than she did. So when he showed up again, they went to him instead of her.
Yeah. Well, because, like, the Fire Toa here has some experience. He has still been in combat and ordered people around, but the Psychic Toa just has more experience. She's been through several wars now, not just the last one for basically all of existence. She's been through even the war before that. You know, like when they were trying to really get rid of some of these people. She's been through enough conflict and has seen enough stuff, and with her skill set, you know, like, she is the best fit to lead. And
the only one on this team with more
experience to remember to acknowledge that and be willing to bow to that while not having that torpedo his own sense of self-worth, because he's so wrapped up in being the competent leader that when he no longer has that status, he's like, well then what am I? the part of this arc is learning that he has other ways to contribute even if he's not leading, and that even though he's not the leader, it doesn't make him less than. He's just not leading. You know, like
He's still a part of this machine, just not at the power source.
not the way he thought. So some of it is him wrestling with his own expectations of how he thought this was going to go, and what the reality actually looks like, and coming to terms with how that shifts his own sense of reality and view of himself. Because, you know, he isn't what he thought he was going to be. He's not the leader. And now somebody else is giving him orders, and it's been so long since he's actually had to take the orders, especially when he thinks that they're not the right orders for the situation. You know, like, it's his own. He has to come to terms with, just because that isn't maybe what he would have chosen done. You know, all right, well, it worked out this time, good for you. Or I would have done this that way. You know, especially if the way things go hasn't gone quite according to plan. Well, that's why I thought that was a stupid idea. We should have gone with mine, because, you know, like, I've seen this happen before, and all right, well, if you had some of these concerns before we started, why didn't you actually voice them in a way that we could have had a conversation about what the best batch of tactics would, and work with me, instead of waiting to spite me just to show that you're the better, you know, oh, see, I'm better at I'm the better leader over here. You know, like, some of that is him coming down a peg and reassessing what he thinks an effective team actually looks like. Because in his experience, an effective team is the team of Toa that listens to the Toa of Fire, and they just blindly follow his orders because he's always right, and that's how this goes. No, it's not how this goes. Because you aren't the leader. Other people have way more experience than you, and also, if they have more experience, that clearly proves that your tactics are not going to work the way you want them to, will clearly not follow any orders you try to give them, because that's just not the dynamic that they're building here. But you have you've lost your ability to effectively communicate with people because you are so used to giving orders that when it comes to actually having a conversation about, well, what do we think is the next right move, you're not used to having that conversation with anybody, because you're just going, all right, well, whatever I think is the next right move, that's what we're doing, instead of actually having any level of conversation on, no, that might not be the best move, well, I want to do this, I don't think that'll work. You know, like, actually collaborating with people to figure out the next thing you should be doing instead.
I also want to just put out there that the only person on this team with more experience than its current leader is the Toa of Plant Life, who chooses not to take over because he knows it's not his place.
Dude is perfectly content to follow. He's seen so much. Like, the backstory that the Toa of Plant Life has here.
He's almost 100,000 years old.
Damn.
He is the original Matoran Civil War.
Bonte has seen some shit. And at this point, you know, if he continues to see action, he'll help in whatever way he can. But, like, any sense of, I need to go out for the glory has died out, like, several thousand years ago. Like, he's here to contribute and be along for the ride and nurture the people under them so that they become effective Toa, and that's his goal in life. He's okay with that.
Seriously, how do you not
gonna fall. Okay, let's wait.
Seriously, how do you not become a Turaga yet? I suppose the Great Spirit just has more for me to do.
The dude's just like, he's just chill.
He also serves as the group's medic, so...
Let's say, like, Uncle Iroh vibes over here, but, like, Bonte's just, like...
Sorry to do...
Oh, no, to go with the flow, and here, I'll nudge you in the right direction if I can, but, like, he has absolutely no problems taking orders whatsoever.
Hold on. Armorhide has something to say. Sorry to derail, but it's weird to hear your game music as I'm fighting my way through hell.
Right when you go, that's totally a total whiplash.
Because he's playing Diablo right now, so...
Totally not the music I would put with that.
Sorry, I
But
didn't
yeah,
mean-
that thing never completely got off the ground because Red had issues with not being the de facto leader of Special or having any other kind of traumatic, ooh, pity me to back any of that up.
That's
And-
always his problem.
And he, you know, thinking his way through problems with his mask to try to use it in creative ways.
He legit
For all
tried
the-
asking us, okay, if I can't have these masks instead, just give me a mask of speed or a mask of strength. That honestly does nothing for your character.
I mean, you can work through some of that, but like at the same time, we're like, well, we thought you'd want something a bit more interesting and a bit more
I totally
unique to you. Still trying to play ball here with Eve. I don't want to just be a generic. You're already kind of generic, but like we'll still give you some hints of being different and special within reason. You know?
Also, I don't want to be a generic. Give me a mask of speed or strength.
Yeah, basically, I just want to Hulk smash whatever the problem is into the floor, and that's how we solve the problems. I just want to one punch it into non-existence.
Just don't make me generic.
Well, no, we had to tone him down because his backstory that he originally came up with. Oh my God! Besides the fact that it made no sense and started to kind of like argue with the world building that's been established in a couple of
He
places.
wanted to simultaneously be a Matoran of fire and a Matoran of air.
That's not a thing.
In that, he's still a Matoran of fire, but he uses tree speak like the Matoran of air. For no given reason, and honestly, it did nothing for his character. It didn't add anything or subtract anything. It was a trait that was basically just there to exist. It was a nothing burger.
Except that where he wanted to originally put himself, that would have actually kind of like fought with canon on some level. Because if you're going to be in a place that's highly visible to the main storyline, as the only Tamatoran living in a village of Lematoran, you're going to be spotted.
At the very least, by the Tamatoran Chronicler, later revealed to be an Amatoran, but by the Chronicler, who's going all over the island for stories.
I mean, his entire shtick is that he kept popping up in places that he wasn't supposed to be in. And the fact that he kept roaming around and wasn't tied to any one village was enough that people were like, yeah, he's kind of weird. You know, you think if there's another Matoran roaming around that's also equally weird because he's not where he's supposed to be, that would be worthy enough that most people would remember that. Oh yeah, I know him. He's a weirdo.
Let alone the fact that he's another Tamatoran doing this shit.
What's the situation?
I don't know, what is it? Can Toronto Bacano not keep them in temporal? What the fuck?
We have to get to him before they do. Understood.
But yeah, like basically his person was not interesting enough in the ways that he wanted him to be interesting. So the story never completely got off the ground.
For instance,
Because of that.
our Matoran, later Toa, of water and earth, had come from a place to the south called Mari Nui. They had lived so long fighting for survival underwater, having to harvest airweed in order to breathe, hunt for fish during any specific safe hour, while the larger, scarier predators that could gobble a Matoran alive were not roaming. They had to essentially learn to become self-sufficient, which is part of why learning to be a team player is such a huge thing with these Toa.
Especially because also she's like, okay, yeah, we spent our time here now that the world's reshifting itself, we're not having to fight for existence, and that was cool for a time. But now she's getting kind of bored with standing around and having all the safe nothingness. She wants the next challenge. Meanwhile,
In her case,
the Earth guy is like, no, actually, this comfy existence, I like this comfy existence. I don't think I want to leave. Congratulations, you'll be a Toa and have to leave anyway. But like, she's all fired up for that, going, yeah, I've been waiting for the next challenge. Here it is. I'm a Toa of water now. We're gonna get stuff done. It'll be awesome. And he's like, can I go back to mining rocks, please? While the fire guy's also going, nah, man, why do you wanna Why do you want to keep mining rock? We're finally Toa. We're finally capable of doing the greatest feat of legends. We're gonna be remembered with the best of them. We should find the next thing we need to do to add ourselves to the list of well-remembered Toa. Why aren't you on board with this? And she's like, yeah, I was go right to the monsters and get ourselves in trouble. Come on, yeah, we gotta get added to the list of people worth remembering.
I kind of like being a nobody, though. Nothing came after me. No giant, multi-mouth sharks trying to eat me for lunch. No giant explosions. No need to worry about air I'm breathing.
But he's very much like, alright, I'm gonna come with you because now at this point, there's not much I can do to go back to normal existence. So I'm kind of along for the ride whether I want to be here or not. But him kind of come along with, you know what, actually, maybe I do still want a little bit of adventure because as much as I liked my life, maybe I didn't want to admit I was getting kind of bored with it and I wanted something more interesting too. You know, like, especially when he runs into the gravity guy who's still dealing with the fact that, like, this kind of lifestyle is hell and will put you through it and you're gonna lose people and things will go badly for you, you know, like, and this is not all sunshine and roses and yeah, let's get ourselves some statues because we're awesome and we just went and we pinned down the monster thing over here and saved the monkey men from the 8th dimension over here, you know, like, we can totally, you know, like, are you sure you really want this? Because this lifestyle is not for the faint-hearted, and it will eat you alive. You know, while the Toa of Psionics is just trying to make sure nobody catches the dead, as she's also trying to pull her brother Toa out of his slump of, this is all pointless, and I don't want to do this dance anymore. As she also
You three are a pack of morons. This life ain't some big old game of Coley for you to win and get a copper mask statue. This is a living nightmare. You will lose people. You will get hurt. People you love will die. You don't want it.
Right? As she also starts to reconcile some of her own feelings of, yeah, you know, he's not the only one, you know, like, he puts all this responsibility from losing the rest of the team on himself, but we're all partially responsible because, like, it wasn't his job to save everybody, especially as leader, it was mine, you know, so she's dealing with some of her own matchup also still. Alright, well, I did what I could, and maybe I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that what I could do wasn't enough to save everybody, but I'm going to continue to do what I can to keep everybody alive with this new batch of people, because, you know, maybe I couldn't save the last team, but I'm not going to surrender this team without a fight. While Bonzi's just around for the ride going, yeah, the Great Spirit has planned for us next, because that's just been my MO for the last 100,000 years. You know, I might also still try to make sure nobody catches the dead on, like, the background level here, while I also try to nurture people into their own potential. And you know, and if I become a Turaga this time, it's fine.
The Great Spirits have a plan for us all. I'm just here to play my part and stick to the script.
Well, it doesn't have your nose, I said.
Basically.
Off a cliff, I said.
As he tries to low-key challenge everybody's mindset in the room because, y'all, all of you, you're just so young and so, so impetuous here. I'm gonna lead you all in the right direction, all of you, because, you know, like, I'm just gonna shepherd everybody here. It's fine.
Well, found out where your friend's heading for one thing.
Low key, this Toa of plant life is the only reason this team isn't immediately dead out of the gate.
Right.
Because if it weren't for him, they'd be killing each other.
Tried to stop them.
We kill each other with a fractured part already. The Toa of Fire would have probably gotten himself half into some hot water doing something entirely reckless in order to prove that he's right. While everybody else is just along for the ride, and Arbus is gonna sit over here and wait for the gravity guys is gonna wait for everybody to figure out what we're doing next. I'm just gonna sit over here in the corner and let you deal with it. I refuse to play. Which only aggravates him more when he starts to become important to the plot because, you know, his mask decides that, nah, you got things to do, boy, come on. And he's just like, I don't like this stuff.
Repairs are like, you're trying to sit this one out? No.
It's like, yes, oh, back to clairvoyance, see in the future, this will be awesome, you know how that plays out, except that it tends to, like, the stuff that you get is kind of bits and pieces and all over the place, and so, like, when you start talking about the things that you see and as you're going on about stuff, you start sounding stark raving mad. You know, like, this is also, because it's also calling back to, you know, like, when Wakamba started to have see stuff, and people are like, yeah, I don't think he's entirely wrapped too tight. Yeah, this mask is that incarnate. It's just like, yeah.
So, we go on a scavenger hunt because the fire spitter stood too long in front of his forge? Visions can be a sign of madness, yes, or messages from the Great Spirit. But as Toa, we can't afford to ignore them.
Some of his fun is also deciding to surrender to be an instrument of the Great Spirit again, considering the Great Spirit clearly didn't have any problem with killing those last teammates, so, yeah, he's kind of angry with, for all intents and purposes, he's kind of angry at God right now.
Especially when God had a chance to come back, straighten everybody out, and instead chose to leave them to their own devices while he goes to take a nap.
I'll be in Rosario in a day or two.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got some issues from that, but because like
My
I
theory
tried
is,
to
like-
divide up who's got what for a shtick, and I didn't give all of that shtick to the Tomatoran. Like he wasn't interesting enough, and then he wasn't interested in playing the game anymore. And I'm like, all right, I have all these notes and like an idea and map of where I was going.
Yo, what the fuck?
Basically.
Joshua's alive!
Yay!
The Wyndham is green.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but like this entire time I thought I thought Joshua was dead and Ifrit killed the Phoenix. You know, now that I say that out loud, it sounds kind of stupid.
Yeah. Right. The Phoenix staying dead. Ha 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 ha.
But like I assumed Joshua died, and of course like Clive finds out that he's Ifrit or Ifrit, the one that supposedly killed his brother, and now Joshua's alive.
Congratulations, you didn't kill him. It's all right. Have a cookie.
Have your brother back.
The trade-off is that maybe now your brother is the Phoenix and he's an immortal being, and so like at some point like you're gonna have to walk away from him anyway. But it was just like I thought you were also talking to me because it was just timed that way. I was like, oh okay, yeah. It's like I have so many notes. It's like yes, this could have been interesting, but he wasn't interested in. He's not interested in the actual character development parts of stuff. He wants the. Well, see, if I tell you what my backstory is, and then just kind of half-ass my way there, and like give you the end point of, see, that's supposed to be because like, just how it feels regardless. You know, you have to set up enough in the middle ground to get people attached enough to actually feel the thing you're to make them feel. Because you have to do the work for that.
Oh, give it to me straight. How long have I got?
Or that's also adding in things that you go, I don't think you fully thought through exactly what that backstory would do to somebody, like, fully in the execution here. Just sometimes, like, characters do not act the way the character likely should because there's a disconnect in trying to put yourself in their headspace.
We take a break from Final Fantasy to give you Skyrim.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's fancy. Yeah. Random guys in armor roaming around. Yeah, I see that.
So, apparently the now finished Green Wyndham.
What?
I finished painting the Wyndham. You want to see it?
Yes. Very much yes.
Private Facebook chat. The pictures are sending. My connection ain't the best, so...
Nice.
Honestly, I'm surprised it came out looking this good.
Armorhide said he drank from a random cauldron he found in hell. Turned all of his HP and MP potions into full HP and MP potions. That has got to be the luckiest risk I have ever seen, man.
Oh, and here's the recently repainted / restored Turn A Gundam. While I'm at it.
Nice.
Still gotta finish his shield and his rifle, but everything else is done. Happy that the color scheme went as well as it did for the Wyndham. I was so used to seeing the blue with the little pale green highlights around. It's just... It's neat to see the color scheme look like this. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello! Hold on, I gotta turn you up, because I turned up Latios.
Back in a minute.
Okay. Oh, I already have him up at 200%.
Then it's officially a him problem.
Oh, I didn't realize the image was mirrored.
You know, funny enough, because I brought up Nokama's quote from the second movie, I'm gonna bring this up now. In Bionicle 2 and 3, Toa Nokama is voiced by Tabitha St. Germain, who plays Rarity and Princess Luna in Friendship is Magic.
Did you just say Saint Germain?
Tabitha St. Germain. That's the name she went by. You might recognize her as Alexis in Transformers Armada.
You'll not find a better price than...
Yes.
I'm sure I'll be calling
No,
it
it's
off.
just that last name caught my attention.
The carpenter's work is never done around here.
Yeah, she's been a lot of places.
No, because Saint Germain is a figure of myth,
Yeah.
believed to be an immortal that's been around for quite some time.
Considering one of her roles was Princess Luna, the nigh immortal Alicorn, I kind of laughing my ass off right now.
Okay.
Same for you, dear.
Better or worse. Depending on what kind of name we're rolling out here.
Not too confident around the ladies, eh?
Hoot.
If there's one thing I've learned about the
Top
Pharaoh's
spot
sons,
already
it's that
exists
you don't want to keep
Okay.
in Transformers.
No, no.
Hello, Taro.
Hello.
The Count of Saint Germain. Thank you, Sin.
Hey,
Is a friend of mine. He's been trolling the rich and royalty for centuries. He is no myth. Upon further research, it has been determined that Final Fantasy 16 only has 16% RPG left in it. Tastes great, less filling. You decide. Listen. I'm just enjoying the game. This game's brutality is still getting to me. I saw a man take a tomahawk to the face.
They even have a Moogle. I'm sure it said on my father's best.
Here, hold this.
Neck, do you say?
so,
Sometimes you want this game to tell you a story.
That sounds...
so, what was I gonna say?
Sid's fault.
So you won't believe what I found, well, what I found on, my YouTube's, like, recommended today.
If you have a question for me, I should be happy to answer it.
I found a simple song that sounds a bit like Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Like a slow version of Inferno. I'm just like, is that an actual song or someone just redid this?
I'm not hating on FF16, it just needs to be said that it is the least RPG of the entire franchise.
The door to the
Um,
Pharaohs shall ever be open.
Chocobo's Racing would like a word with you.
Just don't have enough teams to do it.
Well, if you're still part of the story and your decisions do impact how some things play out, then that's still technically by definition how that works.
Hey, Jill's finally awake. After we learned that we may have murdered our brother, and then murdered a woman, and killed Garuda.
It is.
Clive! You're alive.
What I missed?
You did all that, and I have a bird head. We're all having a bad day.
I still can't believe it.
Including me, because I had one of the worst days ever today.
You okay, man?
I hurt my wrist, hurt my leg, and
Oh,
when
you
I was
told me what
paying for my lunch, I found that
You saved my life.
I lost
After
the,
nearly
the
10
money I
years.
was gonna need
had no
to
idea.
pay for lunch.
Oh, fuck.
Forgive me. How did you ever come to be there, Jill?
So sorry to hear that, man.
That is the worst.
And you know the thing is,
The Iron Blood.
I lost
They
the money
invaded not long after
right
the news
as I
arrived
was at the counter.
about Phoenix Gate.
You need a hug,
Rosaria
man.
had lost her leaders. The duchy was in
No,
chaos.
fine.
The Iron Kingdom saw
The
our
one behind
weakness and
counter,
pounced upon it. They killed the men
gave me
and
the
captured the women.
food, not the drink.
And took you back to Ino.
So there's that.
Well, at least you
Thought
still
they
got to
meant
eat.
have their fun with me before the end.
Yeah,
But the end never came.
it is good.
My powers awoke and everything changed.
Hmm?
It all happened so fast.
We were told that the Iron Blood had captured a dominant and planned to bring her on their latest crusade.
They gave me a choice. To fight for them on the battlefield or see my countrywomen slaughtered.
So, you want to see the stuff I've been working on, Taro?
Call us dominants.
Sure.
What?
Okay, in the voice chat general, I am gonna start posting
happened,
up
Clive?
pictures.
What happened at Phoenix Gate?
The Shining.
First off, after I had finished painting the strike dagger, I painted the dagger L to match.
I killed Joshua.
Oh no. Everything's loading in.
That's not true. I know you. You wouldn't do that.
It's the truth.
Okay.
I changed
That's
into
the dagger
him
L on the right, the strike dagger on the left.
a second icon.
Like I said, I painted it to match.
The one responsible.
Then, after a night, kind of, I
Clive,
slept on it, so I decided
When I think back to that night,
I'm gonna take my Wyndham, which is supposed to be the next unit after the dagger L and their lineage, and paint it in a similar fashion.
Hooded man. He spoke to me.
It would have had been like blue where I have the lighter green, and a much paler or kind of bluish green where I have the metallic green.
We have found you.
Huh.
What did he mean?
Clive, we should go back there to Phoenix.
And the
Gate.
last thing that I just finished
I
now,
need to
having
know what
just
really
finished with the
happened.
rifle and the
And so
shield,
you need to know for certain. And
my
if what you
high-grade
told me
Turn A
is
Gundam.
true, and you did what you said you did, then we will face it together.
Jill,
I basically restored the original paint scheme after I had it in like green and purple for a while.
all right.
You'll be needing a change of clothes then. Out you go, your lordship. We wouldn't want you getting overexcited.
Oh,
Sorry.
Red came to the same conclusion I did, Bear.
I'll see you soon then.
Of what?
If Ultras are canon to the Ben 10 multiverse, does that mean Godzilla is too?
22.
Oh god.
We've a long journey ahead of us.
Oh no.
I think, like, the way he's phrasing it, I think he's joking.
Hopefully, otherwise, if you are gonna use Godzilla, you better bet your ass you name it something cool.
Oh god, he is the type that would just have Godzilla on his Omnitrix.
Like, even when I attempted to have Godzilla exist in my universe as a joke, I never wrote this in, it was just a little whole person-to-person speaking joke. I didn't have Godzilla in the Omnitrix. I was still fighting it in my Tokustar form.
I'll
Yeah,
come
but if
down
you
as soon
decide
as
to
I've
name
got
it something
changed,
stupid
Clive.
like giant lizard, I'm
I'll
gonna
come
like
down as
kick
soon
your
as I've
ass.
got changed, Clive.
To quote a singing
I thought I
mantis,
told you to make yourself
I'm gonna
scarce.
kick your ass until your head falls off. Then I'll kick your head and kick your ass again. Why? I don't think he's learned his lesson. Open the door, sucker. It's Zorak. Here to kick your ass.
Well, he's already afraid of me coming in for anything, so like, I think he's probably automatically afraid of that as soon as I walk into chat going, hey, I saw that! And he's like, oh god.
I don't doubt it. Seems to be the...
We strive to be better than... Now, as to the task itself,
It's just
I am once again
Hey,
in need
dude,
of a
the-
pair of hands to deliver
kind of,
sustenance to our
but you need to put it back in the oven for like
I have
15 minutes, it'll be
three
fine.
industrious souls.
Like, not only does he take criticism in any form as a personal attack,
I'd be happy to
he
help.
seems to have it in his head that Kraken here doesn't do the same thing with me.
Oh no, I'll rip some of your shit apart if I have to. I've done that.
He has, and I'm a better writer for it.
Well, no, just recently, I went back to him. I'm like, wait, what universe was your human kid adopted by the Transformers in again?
Yeah, I'm
like-
going to fix that eventually.
Because I'm like, it's not a bad idea. It has absolutely no place in your Mass Effect universe because that makes no levels of sense according to the world building. So,
Like I said, I will fix that when I get there.
because I'm like, as that's what I just told him, I'm like, think about it.
Sometimes you have to let your darling idea die and just reuse it later in order for a story to function properly.
It's not killing it, it's just putting it up on the shelf waiting its turn. Sometimes you'll use it, sometimes things do go kind of dusty and kind of sour on the shelf if there actually isn't a good place to immediately use it. But, you know, it's like, it's not a bad idea for them to have kind of adopted a human kid.
It's
In
just
Mass Effect, with the more realistic politics you're playing with, it's not likely. Because I imagine several batches of human government-like things, and just humans in general, are going to have some issues with, you know, like 30-foot-tall robots raising an 8-year-old. You know, you're going to squish him. How do you know what a human needs? You're going to teach him to not be human. He needs to be with the humans, like his own kind over here. You know, like, you're going to have a whole bunch of crazies out for your blood. There's no way. There's no way.
like when Transformers Victory pulled this stunt, their series was still, for the most part, comedic in nature, though they did get heavy at some points.
You know, something a little more lighthearted and a little more like this.
They'd
is
also
trying to
established that
follow, like a regular Transformers like series kind of thing where it's got to take into account the kid perspective. Like that would still make more sense. Mass Effect is dealing with some levels of real, actual like politics, and we have actual alien groups who are actively being biased against some of your other aliens here. Like, there's no way.
That's everyone.
There's no way.
God help us when the Batarians eventually get involved.
Oh God.
You know, like, there's no humans in that universe that are going to let giant robots, you know, the aliens, finally came in, and okay, we're kind of alright with them being here, but oh hell no, we are not having no aliens raising our children. You know, like, Earth would be like, no thank you. No thank you. So it's like, it's nice in theory, it just doesn't fit here. You're gonna have to scale that back, because it makes no sense and starts to kind of break some of your suspension of disbelief here, because it fights with everything else that's been established.
Thing is, I established the adoption thing way before I even started throwing in the Mass Effect stuff, so I'm just, at this point, I'm still thinking of how I'm going to fix it, which is why I haven't done it yet.
It would have to, yeah. Otherwise, that would have to be you know what, the temporary thing, because your parents worked here, and the temporary-ish custody of leaving you here with all the other humans you're already familiar with finally ran out, and we have an adopted family for you now. Come with us, kid.
She left to gather soil, and I've seen nothing of her since. I cannot
So kid kind of have
for
exit
fear
the
of
plot.
what might have happened. Please, I beg of you, will you go and check?
Because then that would just be shifting and reframing the kid from being, oh, well, the kid's adding stuff in his own perspective to being the kid becomes a device to kind of highlight some of the things about the Autobots. Then in that capacity. Because then you can have how the Transformers reacted to the time they spent with having the human kid here and having that kind of connection as a way to showcase the Autobots in question rather than focus so much more on like the kid. Like he's not important for his own sake, he's important for what he meant to the Autobot. So just be reframing him a little bit that way. But yeah, no, like, if stuff doesn't kind of make sense, and I start to feel like I should call bullshit, I will call bullshit on whatever I look at here, so...
Case in point, we just experienced that.
Oh my goodness.
Red thinks that this doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, if you ask me for my 2 cents, it's like, you'll get a fairly candid 2 cents, you know, like, if I say something that I don't understand, I'll either point out that, alright, I don't understand this, explain to me how that works, give me some justification to actually see if I'm just mistaken off of my first impression, or if there isn't a way that explains that reasonably and backs some of that up, to your world building, let me be clear, I don't have... His Red's come after my rump a couple times but this isn't the real world, it doesn't function that way. Okay, fine, fair enough. But if this fights with the world building you establish your world to run on, I'm gonna call bullshit. Because I don't care how well it lines up with the real world, if it doesn't line up with what your version of the quote-unquote real world is in this story so that it makes sense to itself, I'm gonna tell you that. Because it should. Even if what you're playing with isn't necessarily the same kind of brand of physics we're used to playing with, if it makes no sense to the new physics you've substituted in its place, then it still doesn't fit. Because that's just how that works. It should make sense to itself, because your world should follow some level of its own internal logic that the audience can kind of pick up on and be able to judge what should be able to happen in this world and what can't happen in this world based off of the information you give them and you set up. You know, like, to use an example from Avatar: The Last Airbender, we don't expect Earthbenders to suddenly be chucking, like, well, that's gonna be about as ever.
It took them a long time to even get metal bending to be a widespread thing between Avatar and Korra, and lava bending is its own whole different batch of worms.
Kind of work between the two of them, so that kind of is where that argument falls a little bit.
You don't expect a waterbender to start chucking fireballs, you know?
Basically, because they established that each bender only bends one certain thing, and anything that they can start bending as extra stuff, like the. Like, let's use the Earthbenders. The Earthbenders chucking the molten rocks here, the lava. They can chuck normal rocks. So yeah, these ones are technically kind of molten and on fire, but they're still made of the same basic elements as the regular rocks. So it's not that far of a stretch to imagine that they could throw that. You don't expect them to suddenly blast, because that makes no sense when all they can mostly do is earth things. So
it would also help them a lot more if they were like, if one parent was an earthbender and one was a firebender.
But even then, they pick one direction.
Well, I'm saying, like, there is a bit of, like, there's not a lot of good examples of it, but there are examples of mixed bending. Bolin's lava bending is probably the most well-known example, but there are other examples.
Yeah, well, that's just because lava bending by itself kind of flirts the line of being able to be controlled by both. So you can make an argument for both sides on how they can bend that, and that's why it's kind of in between. But like we said before, like, you know, you don't expect waterbenders to throw around shards of glass at you, because it's not a water-based thing. You know, like, bloodbending we buy because blood is mostly water. So the world itself establishes that the major bending types only bend one thing, and anything that is an offshoot that comes up later makes logical sense to the original thing they're already able to bend.
Yes.
You don't have things that don't make sense going between
like the swamp benders, who are water benders themselves, bending the water in plants to make the plants move.
Because even between that and the blood bending to make people like it's all using water still as a conduit. So it makes sense for water benders to do that, because that is what they move.
Okay, what about spirit bending?
Spirit bending kind of fucks over the world building, so we're just gonna kind of. Horus did some things to the world, like the world as it stands, that kind of contradicts or shoot itself in the foot. So we're gonna we're gonna lay off of Korra for some level here.
Oh,
We're just gonna look at
no.
the
Korra
show
did.
Avatar.
Korra didn't start that. That was Last Airbender that started that shit.
Yeah, but the last one also left that specific more or less to Aang to learn. So you could call some level of that's just Avatar specific bullshit. So, you know, it's possible to learn, but it's not a bending that's really left to people who don't have a very good connection to the spirit world. So there's some caveats to that.
Right.
But for the most part, before it throws you that curveball, everything in there stays consistent because people only move what they tell you they can move, and anything new that they move makes sense to the rules that were already established. They're not creating new rules. They're not suddenly throwing you a rule out of left field that wasn't here 3 seasons ago. Like, everything is based off of the original rule set and makes sense with that understanding of the world. So the audience can follow along and go, that's a natural progression of stuff we already understand. It's just giving it some more detail and some more depth over here versus where did that come from? You know, like adding in things that you go, well, this was never established to be a thing before, but they're going to tell you, no, this has always been a thing. And you're like, but where? It comes from nowhere, is tied to nothing that was already established, and or when it starts to contradict what's already established, you go, but wait a minute. So, like, the world itself should follow whatever it sets up as its own rule. And anything that it goes back and tries to go, oh, well, the rule that we thought we understood doesn't actually work that way, has to make sure it explains why that original assumption is wrong, but also that why that original assumption you wouldn't be mistaken for making it.
Yeah.
Like, they should still make sense to itself.
World building should not be world breaking. Looking at you, Zuko's mother, and what the comics did with you.
I'm not gonna touch that.
What? Okay, question. What if the world breaking is say the world breaking
to say farewell
is actually, I don't even know how to word this correctly.
Like, if you're basically going to take what the original assumptions were and turn them on their head to prove that they were wrong.
I guess?
Is that basically reshifts the whole world. The world does not function the way we originally thought it does. It now functions this new way, which I guess would be the way that you would break the world. Without breaking the world in a way that's unintentional or is just from not paying attention. That's what I was saying before, that even when you do that, and move into the new understanding of how the world works, it still has to be tied enough to the old way that it makes sense that you would fall for the old explanations first, because people are still mostly reasonable creatures. Mostly.
They mostly come out at night. Mostly.
A little bit. You know, but like, as much as we go, oh yeah, no, the world is totally not flat. There were reasons for why the people in the 1400s who thought the world was flat thought that. You know, like, they based that off of what they could observe and how far they'd been. You know, so it's just the lack of the extra information to fill in the gaps and reshift how they viewed what the world was shaped like for them to realize that that assumption was wrong. But they made that assumption for reasonable reasons. You know?
Unlike people today who still think the world is flat because conspiracies, and then they try to prove that the Earth is flat, only to prove that the Earth is fucking round.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's usually how that goes. Just in general, even if the explanation later proves wrong, when you get more information, people still try to make the most logical. They base their understanding off of however much information and logical reasoning that they can. You know. So even if what they think is wrong, they still have a basis for going, well, this does this and this does that, so that's why I thought this thing worked that way. You know, you try to make the most understanding out of out of the information that you have. So even if that's wrong, and later prove that your information was incomplete, your information was just inaccurate, you know, like,
there's still a reason why you think that, and why that would be logical for somebody to think that,
Off you go, then.
instead of looking back and going, well, yeah, we found out that the world doesn't work this way. But in looking at how it now works, when you look at the original explanation, you go, what idiot thought that? That makes no sense, and that, like, it just sounds so wrong. You go, no one would ever actually, people believe that? You know, like, there should be some way to make that still seem reasonable enough of an assumption for people to use that as their explanation before we get the actual explanation.
Right.
My best work. It'll do. Anything else?
You know, so, like, on that level, logic does still try to track. You know, even when people are making unreasonable decisions, they're making them for reasons that follow a logic they understand. So even if the decision itself is also completely irrational or just completely a bad idea, they go, this is why I think this is the best decision in that situation, or this is the decision I'm making because I don't have time to fully think through things, and if I was given time to think through, I wouldn't have done that, but I panicked and I reacted, and this, but they have reasons why they would react that way. Like, everything will still follow some form of logic that the audience can understand, even when they don't agree with it. They have to be able to understand why somebody does the thing that they do.
Understood.
Even if the explanation is just they are so overwhelmed and so reacting to stuff the same bad way they always react to stuff that they make the wrong decision in that moment. Like, people can make stupid decisions. I'm not saying that they can't make stupid decisions, but we should still be able to look back and go, okay, but this and this is why they make this particular stupid decision. Instead of, they seem to be fine before and making reasonable enough decisions. Why did they suddenly grab the idiot ball over here?
Hold on. Armorhide just said something really funny. But the Earth is flat. It's mostly made of water that's non-carbureted.
Yay! Ready. Right, exactly, right? Someone needs to use the CO2 in the machine. Fine.
That is the dumbest thing I have heard in a while, and it is hilarious.
Godzilla will fix that. Okay.
Yeah, it's about time he kicked the ass of some island nation again.
Right. But, like, we... that's the kind of argument I'm afraid of getting. Like, that's gonna be a, I kind of temper getting into that kind of discussion with Fred, because I know that's the kind of discussion that's just gonna go straight into, people are no longer listening, and now it's just a shouting match back and forth, because people are no longer listening. Because, I made a remark the one other time that one of your last D&D games that Latios Neru was playing, that I'm trying to remember what was going on, but I was like, oh, is that how that works? I'm like, well, how does that make any logical sense? But he's like, well, it's D&D, it doesn't have to make sense. And I'm like,
yes, it does, motherfucker.
But this is where I go back to where it's that, like, the world you establish will make sense to itself. So there are still a handful of things that you go, okay, there are some loose rules of what you expect to see here, and what is too far-fetched even for that. So technically, yes, D&D does still have logic to it. Is that logic a bit more broad and a little loose with what, you know, like, yeah, the same stuff that happens there isn't necessarily what would happen in the real world here, because it's not the real world, but there are a handful of things you can expect to see or have happen in a D&D world that make sense according to the rules. You know.
There ain't no omnipresent skeleton that's selling you potions for half price.
What?
There ain't no omnipresent skeleton that's selling you potions for gold.
Right? Yeah, but like, but you would expect to still find some merchants selling you some weird shit because, you know, they have access to weird shit. So that wouldn't be completely out of place. But there are some things that you go, oh, well, that completely flies in the face of any batch of physics and or understanding of how some level of magic works to go, yeah, that kind of batch of crazy will totally happen in a D&D world. This batch of crazy will not. Because it for the world that you set up, it doesn't make sense. But like I had to bite my tongue and walk away from them in the middle of that because I started like, well, no, it still will make some level of sense, and started to get the, but it's magic, you know, as a response to,
You know,
well, no, it's only going to do certain things, you know, like the
you
when people
know,
hand wave
fun
away.
fact, Likara actually did a video way back when that completely dispelled the "it's magic, I don't have to explain it" argument. Yes, it's magic, and yes, you do still have to explain it.
You did drop your stuff.
No.
Okay. It's just because the screen shifted, so I wasn't sure if it dropped or not. But yeah, like the but it's magic is not in and of itself. It can be an explanation, but it's not.
It's not a
the
good explanation.
Basically, if the magic that you're pulling off fits into the things we've seen magic do, then on some level you can pull some stunts and go, but it's magic, and not explain how it works, and the audience can see it. You can do it for sake of plot of what needs to happen now and move on without actually looking too hard at exactly what happened here. But if there's something else that's going to definitely be more plot relevant and be more, you need to understand how this works in order to fully
Bye, Taro.
going on, then like, yeah, you're gonna have to explain that. But it's magic is not sufficient.
Yeah, I think I understand what you were saying. What's happening is our internet connection is kind of weak, unstable, so it's blinking.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure if it was supposed to do that or if it wasn't supposed to do that. So
It is and it isn't.
But yeah, no, he was about right. Like that would have turned into a half-hour argument, would have completely derailed your game. So I was just like, I'm gonna bite my tongue and walk away because diving into that argument is just not gonna end well.
It's not worth it.
No, I'm like, let me just not do that because you guys are the middle of
I mean, it's worth it to me. I get entertainment out of it.
I don't know if your other buddies would have gotten the same level of entertainment, which is why I'm like, let me just walk away and not make this game take longer than it already is. Because that wasn't too terribly long before, like, Harmony started to get her face eaten off by the brain eater thing. The Cthulhu wannabe, because he's very squid.
My sister, everybody. Gotta love her.
It's been 13 years.
But this breeze, the smell of the grass, it's just as I remember it.
You haven't been back either.
I couldn't. Branded, keep a close watch on each other in the Imperial Army. You get beheaded just for knowing a deserter.
Yeah, the way I'm thinking now that it's actually been put in my head, I'll eventually have the kid taken away because, oh, we found him a human family. But we will check in on him every now and again.
Afraid to go back.
And being removed from what he has basically identified as family for the last while, probably not going to go overly well.
Yeah.
You might still miss people. If the people you've been relocated with are still, like, if that life is still readjust.
Eventually. But the first couple of weeks, it's gotta be like, hey, where is everybody?
Well, I mean, once you move him, you don't even have to check back into his perspective. Because then he becomes a device just for Optimus to go, yeah, I remember when he was here. And I still keep tabs on him because, you know, Optimus does. He cares about the people around him. And that's a way to showcase the fact that he still cares about the people around him.
That inn at the top of the hill must be Martha's Rest.
But,
Gav said the landlady's a friend.
yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Imperials don't tend to take well to
Not in this universe.
If anyone asks,
We put a pin in it and hold it for later.
Not like in Transformers Victory, where the Autobots adopted a kid whose parents were murdered by the Decepticons.
Yeah, but that was going for that, and that one was actually aimed at kids, so like, well, kids did, you know what I mean? Like, it's part of the tone of the narrative they were going for with
It's
that.
not like
because
Wanted Death and Destruction didn't already exist in there.
Well, yeah, no, but he exists to be the audience surrogate capacity. So that's what his function is there, is to be the eyes that are
Yeah,
looking
as
at the
you
world
can,
around him.
as you probably heard, I'm still adjusting to this, and I'm trying to think of how I can do this with the least amount of pain possible.
Yeah.
Just kind of shift it and move on, and your audience will either accept it or something here. I mean, for the most part, if you handle shifting over well, then the farther you get away from that point, like the more it'll just kind of become a thing.
Honestly, like, if I can add my 2 cents into this,
Yeah.
Considering how important it seemed for Optimus and Alita to adopt a child, maybe like having a scenario where like the kid is like in danger, similar to what Latios did with the old version of the story, where he's kidnapped by fucking Cobra. It kind of puts things into question as to whether or not robots can raise a human boy, and Optimus and Alita realizing that things are just too dangerous, they decide to give him up to a human family.
You know, because this is ultimately what's best for him, even if we are gonna miss him.
Well, I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to be out of the story.
Well, no, but I would leave him more fully in the background, just because with all the stuff that's going on in that story, the fact that we have things that are literally wiping out parts of the universe right now, he kind of, in the scheme of all the things going on, he falls very far down the priority list of things that need to be dealt with. Now, I don't have issue with occasionally going, oh, well, look, well, he called back in on a video call to, like, talk to you because you still keep tabs with him. You can use that moment as a, like I said, using it as Optimus just keep tabs and keep watch over the people that are important to him. And so this is still taking him and moving him from a more active part of the story to reframing him as a more, making him more of a device to characterize the other characters in the story. Because then you could also have, you know, maybe, I don't know if you actually go into Elitist or not.
For time and time, I have.
Because you could use that as a way for, okay, he's moved on, and yes, we keep tabs on him, but he's happy in his new place now, and obviously as him being part of Earth when stuff comes to threaten humanity and all the rest of that stuff, you think of his face, and we don't want anything bad happening to him. Like, he becomes the face of humanity for the audience, that we don't want Earth and humanity destroyed, because that means that the little boy here is going to be dead. We don't want that. But you could also use it as a way to interactions with him, because he can think of that time where it was kind of nice to have almost like this kind of little family-like unit thing. Maybe Optimus realizes that he kind of wants that kind of family unit-like thing, and if him and Alita aren't in a necessarily, like, already explicitly stated kind of relationship here forward.
I believe they are the Cybertron. They are the Cybertronian equivalent of being married, I believe.
I don't. Oh, I'm not sure if they actually are an already stated item, or if they are just kind of flirting with that.
They're an already stated item.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if they weren't, then you could use that as a way for Optimus to kind of start looking into and thinking about his feelings about Alita, and realizing that he wants to be tied to her and other people, like, long term. Like, he actually enjoyed that connection with her and the family they were building together, the two of them, and he wants that. You know, like I said, he becomes more of a device than an actual active character. Because he doesn't need to be. He existed to get us familiar with him, and the kind of thing that Optimus enjoys. And
You have Joe using sheep as a big city here. Wait, how'd you get here so fast? We took the plot device. Hello.
Right? But like, that's what I'm saying. You could just kind of tweak how you use him to frame other things, and that would just give him a new purpose instead of him actually being an active part of the plot that's going on.
Honestly, like, maybe it's just me, but I don't like the idea of taking a character and, like, essentially demoting them to, like, background character.
Or plot device in this case.
Or plot device.
If you still interact with him well enough, he still kind of is. There are so many people here, though, you have to also balance how many people are you juggling, because you can't... You can try to keep them all, but how well you can juggle having that many people run around is going to become work.
I've already got 6 Autobots, not even counting the 7th one currently in stasis mode as the city they live in.
That's not even touching any Decepticons you're framing into places and stuff. Anybody else in the Mass Effect universe you're running in that now has to have characterization in moments and stuff. There's gonna be too many people. You have to pick and choose who it is you want to actually use for what effect, and how that'll help further the story along. Because yeah, you could use this character and it'd be nice to see them, but like, sometimes they have to just be a cameo because there's no space for them to be active part of the plot because there's just no room for them to do things. When you are, you know, he's a nice kid and we like seeing him, but his existence here in the way that it's already been put in breaks some of the suspension of disbelief, because it starts actively torpedoing some of the understanding of how your world works. He kind of has to go back to the background so that it no longer becomes such a glaring focus of, see, he kind of actually makes no sense. We're kind of pulling him back out of the audience's immediate line of sight, so they might forget that, you know, him being there for 2 seconds actually kind of started to not make sense.
Who's to say he won't actively come back in a sequel advocating for Autobots to be treated more like inhabitants of the Earth?
You know, maybe because he had time growing up with Optimus and Alita for a little bit as they were taking care of him. When he grows up, he becomes a more vocal voice in politics for the inclusion of Autobots into actual, like, more meaningful levels of culture in here. Like, you know, he becomes a more active voice for, see, the aliens aren't going to completely take away our humanity. In some ways, they might enhance that. In some ways, they might be able to adopt some of what we view as quote-unquote humanity into themselves. And so, like, he starts a whole other conversation with people because of that. You know, he could eventually pop up in the background from time to time and grow up into a major, more political player in future things. We're not necessarily completely getting rid of him, we're just shifting what he's actually contributing for 2 seconds.
Okay.
If you think of it that way, he hasn't actually lost anything. He exists to become the embodiment of the things that Optimus wants to protect and the things that he views that are good about humanity, and why he cares so much what happens to them, versus being not that he's any less of a person for it, but he's more of a symbol, like the thing that he represents, rather than him as a person. Not that he can't still add some things with his own batch of personality and pizzazz, but like, we're making him useful to what's going on here, because in this world with Mass Effect people, Mass Effect politics, and all that stuff going on, this is a world of grown-ups.
Sorry for before. Can't be too
They're
strangers
grown-ups
questions
arguing with each other and doing other things, and you can have him there to occasionally offer 2 cents to highlight how maybe the more simplistic and naive ways kids kind of think about stuff and blindly accept what is.
Where is it you're headed?
Offsets how the adults are maybe more pessimistic, or maybe more interested in controlling how everything is. You know, instead of just taking it as it stands. Because that would be a more effective way to use him here. Because in this world of so much grown-ups and grown-up politics, there's no place for a kid to really play ball in it. He doesn't have the amount of leverage or political power to do that.
But he went out on another job, and he hasn't come back.
You know, when I was
You
little,
think something might have
this one friend of mine, his name was Hot Rod. He used to take me fishing every Wednesday.
taken his time?
And every time, we'd have to have these conversations and really get to know each other. And though I didn't know about it then, when I look back on it, they're more human than we are.
Such a soft spot for you.
You know, I started to realize I wasn't talking to an alien or a Cybertronian
He wasn't-
or a robot. I was talking to a person
I
that
realized-
thought and felt and noticed things
I
the
look
way
back
I
on it-
did.
I look back on it now and I realize I wasn't looking at this giant alien robot death machine that shouldn't be here. I was talking to an older brother.
His name is Bernard.
You know,
Should
I
you
was
find
talking
him
to
well,
a
tell him
person
Walter sent you, and that he's
equally
wanted
as
at the bridge to Eastgate.
allowed to be here and be the person that they were as much as I was. So, like, you know, like, you can grow into eventually trying to find a space to play ball with the world as it stands. But right now, there's just there's just not much for an 8-year-old to do except get kidnapped every 5 minutes, and you don't want to make him that level of, like...
Yeah, no, I don't want him to be Sam Raimi's Mary Jane. No.
Like, have him,
Well,
have him kidnapped once to get the point across.
Well, I'm just saying, there's only so much you can do with him, and putting him back in danger for just to get rescued again is about the only thing that you can reasonably do with him in the way that this world is set up.
Well, what I'm saying is, you just do it the one time to make the characters realize if he stays here, he's only going to be in danger.
I don't care what your orders are,
Who knows? Maybe instead of getting kidnapped, this is when the Decepticons come back and he narrowly avoids getting shot.
Come on.
After all, this is Galvatron we're talking here. That guy's crazier than a barrel of monkeys.
He's crazier than Beast Machine's Megatron.
Yeah.
He makes soup sandwiches sound logical.
Like, you want to talk crazy? Like, Beast Machine's Megatron was absolutely out of his gourd. Galvatron is still worse.
Right? But that's what I mean. It's reframing what he's adding to the story in a way that kind of makes him feel like he actually kind of belongs here better than he.
For those who don't know,
stands.
For those who don't know Beast Machine's Megatron or what he did to be counted as such a crazy, this guy thought that in order to achieve a perfect unified world that was strong enough to withstand anything thrown its way, it had to abandon all individuality and essentially all be him. So he went about attempting to essentially absorb the souls of every living being on the planet into himself, to then become the planet itself, and repeat process until the entire span of reality is Megatron.
Not at all. You're Bernard, the car.
And somehow Galvatron's crazier than this.
Yep.
Right? So sometimes you gotta watch out for people with a God complex. Oh, shit.
Well, I just finished checking these piles when I turned
Like,
around. If you hadn't come
My
when you
sisters
did-
grew up with Beast Machines, still on television at the time.
Yeah, it was actually originally airing at that.
And I saw on her face when I reminded her what Megatron was actually doing.
3rd grade, man.
You should have. I wish you could have seen it there. The face she made when I reminded her what Megatron was actually doing was like, holy shit.
Right, when you're sitting there as an 8-year-old kid watching them rip the sparks out of people and absorb them back into it, stuff, you're like,
We
oh.
were hoping to take the road to Eastgate.
What am I watching?
We're very grateful for your help. I'm sorry.
Like, especially in the context I put it in, I didn't say sparks because I wanted to make this sound as human as possible because this is effectively what's happening. If these characters were human, this is what would be happening.
Martha mine, but
He's like, alrighty then.
well, I best get cracking then. You go.
But yeah, I think that would be well, because depending on what his interactions and stuff will look like, trying to figure out how to reasonably backtrack that back in and kind of retcon some of the information as we go. Because maybe we go back to our understanding, and they have to have a conversation with him before before stuff happens that make them realize that they really need to move up this timeline, because, you know, they're kind of not in any hurry to have him taken in by other humans, but maybe after stuff goes on, they themselves also are like, yeah, you need to speed run this process because we can't keep him here. This is a bad idea.
The longer he stays here, more
So
likely
even if
to...
you don't have the permanent place for him to go yet, you have at least another temporary place you could put him before he gets
The
there.
longer he stays here, the more likely he's gonna get shot by a Decepticon or worse.
Because you can even use that for them to have a conversation where they have to reframe to
I'll
this
get
kid,
Fowler on the phone.
where they have to reframe for him that, hey, look, you thought this was permanent. This was actually never permanent. Not that we don't want you here, but this was never the long-term solution like you thought it was.
I wouldn't.
To try to
I would
come
not.
back.
I would not tell the child that.
Well, no, we've seen this from his perspective so far. He thinks you can use that to rework in how we thought things were and to glide into the fix for it without making it seem like you're awkwardly trying to fix something. You make it seem more natural of a slope to go, this is how we're swerving to kind of let him go left instead of just trying to shove him sideways through a door. You know, like, you can be like, here, well, the way he talks about it, he thinks it's long-term. And, you know, having to have this conversation as the time that he was going to be put somewhere else approaches, and Optimus is like, look, we realize that you started, you know, we need to prepare you for the fact that you're going to go live with somebody else, like, in a month or something like that. You know, when he's like, you mean you don't want me here? I'm not staying with you? Well, no, sweet, like, it's not that we don't want you here, but this, you thought you were staying.
We love you dearly.
This was never permanent. You know, like, you can offset
We love
his...
you dearly, but it's because we love you that much we need you to be gone. We can't risk you getting hurt.
Yeah, telling the kid it was never permanent is not something you want to say to a kid. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Well, no, he would still phrase that as gently as he could, but that would explain why he thought he was just going to grow up with the Autobots, because kids just going to go, yeah, this is a happy place, I like being here, they take good care of me, they don't need to move me. Except that that's not how actual adults think about things. He was never going to stay here. And even though we understand why he thinks that, because he just thinks, you know, you can chalk that up to, like, just kids will, that's their worldview. I'm here with people who are taking care of me. There's no need for me to leave. So why would I ever leave?
Well, I imagine, like, at one point in time, it, like, he would, at one point in time, he would have stayed with the Autobots long term.
No.
Let me finish.
Okay.
He would have thought that he would have thought, like, it would have been permanent had the Decepticons not attacked, and the Autobots realized it's too dangerous for him to be here. Had nothing happened, had the Decepticons never attacked, he may have stayed there.
Or at least so the kid thinks.
Honestly, so the kid thinks, because humans being humans, think about it logically. The humans are already...
There's already protests about it.
Humans are already trying to adjust to the fact that they have just now been given literal proof standing in front of them that they are not the center of the universe.
They've had to adjust to Autobots being a public thing for about 20 years now.
They can accept that they're here and that they feel and they think things. They're working towards accepting, okay, these are people kind of like us. You know, they think and feel things some of the same way. But they're not us. They're gigantic. They're made of metal. They can easily accidentally kill somebody if they're not careful, because they're still 20, 30 foot tall robots that are
made of metal.
Used to that. There is still a chunk of humanity to be like, okay, we can accept them being here and being part of our society and being people, but accepting that they are the ones raising human children is a step too far, because these are human children. These are us. Who knows what's going to happen when they start raising them? Are they going to be some... They look human, but they're Cybertronian now? No. these are human kids. They need to keep their humanity. The only way they're going to do that is to be raised by actual flesh and blood humans. There's no... Humans are stupid and petty, and this is exactly how they think. That is... You legit have people who have issues with same-sex couples raising kids by that same mindset. This would be a way... People by then might at least still come around to go, well, at least they're still human. At least they're not going to accidentally forget to feed this kid, or accidentally step on him and realize 3 days later that they've squished him. You know, like, these are people that also, they're actively at war with themselves, getting shot at by other gigantic robots that even grown adults in human society have to hope to not get shot at. There's no way in hell they're gonna like, can you reasonably leave a kid in a battle zone when you could obviously do better than that?
You could argue, yeah, they're in peacetime. Yeah, for how long?
For how long?
They've been at war with themselves by their own admission for 9 million years. So they've been at peace for like 6.
Oh, you poor thing.
You know, like, there's still humans thinking the way humans think about things. When you take that to its extension, because since this is Mass Effect this year, people are still playing by reasonable, like fairly real-world facsimiles here. There is no way when people are already looking at how many aliens are too alien for us. You know, there's no way that they're going to look at that and go, you want 2 giant metal people. Yeah, maybe they'll do a good job, but you want 2 giant metal things to raise a human child and expect him to come out all right of that. You know, like, they're like, no, this kid's going to be a robot. He's never going to know how to feel anything. People are going to protest that kind of stuff.
They kind of already are in universe.
So there's no feasible way for them to be able to keep custody of him long term, because the sheer amount of backlash that's going to come out of that. You know, like, because at this point, the world's already connected fairly well now. If even this level of connectivity between places with the internet and stuff like that still exists in that future point in the story, then that's going to go straight around the world, and people are going to be all over that going, oh, hell no. You know, because you might have to worry about whether or not that'll make some demonstration crazies want to actually now kick the robots off the planet, because now they're going to start taking our kids. You know, like, we can't have that. So that's what I'm like, it's nice in theory, but it doesn't belong in the story, because when you think about it for longer than 30 seconds, you go, this makes no sense, because the humans in the story would never allow it.
This is kind of what led to the kid getting captured by Cobra in the first place in the last draft.
Because they're rescuing him. They're taking him to a safer place that's going to be better for him, because we can't allow him to be a pawn in these giant robots. Who knows what they're using him for? They could even hold up and use him as a human shield to try to keep each other from shooting each other. And what if they don't care? Like,
we're still talking about Cobra, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like...
Cobra are terrorists!
This is, yeah, but this is how they would, like, well...
We knew nothing of
they might then shift their focus to, we want these people off the planet in the first place, and we'll spin that as a C, and they kidnap this human child, we rescue him. We need these giant metal monsters off our planet.
That's effectively what the guy who leaked their location to Cobra wanted in the first place. Demonstrate that the Autobots could not protect this kid to give him ammunition to kick them off planet.
That's what I'm saying, because that's the kind of level of politics and things that are still going into this story, because that is still most of where the action and the drama is still a very... There is some other actual fights in it, but you're still doing more of a political back and forth added in along with everything there, because it is part of the ball game they're all playing in order to go after everything. You know, to get people on your side, you have to pass the speech check for that kind of stuff here. So... This is the world. Like, that's what I was telling you. I'm like, it's not a bad idea. I don't hate the idea of Autobots.
It's why I'm not angry about this.
It's like, just not in this story.
This
is
precisely
if you think
why.
About it long enough, it makes no sense.
And through stuff like this, conversations like this, I'm not angry about how, you know, having to do what I need to do. It was just a matter of figuring out how I do it.
But that's what I said. You could have it depending on where you're at and how long this kid's been a thing in the story would depend on how you try to the correct word. Like basically how you
So
pivot
far-
away from what he was doing to what he's now doing to the story in a way that still feels natural enough that
When
people
last
who
we
are-
left him, the Autobots were basically helping him do homework. That was basically it.
Yeah, well, because you want, if they haven't explored too much exactly how the custody of him works, then you could still work that kind of level of stuff into the story to go, yeah, well, see, this is temporary.
I haven't really elaborated on
and-
the custody yet, so
So then you could do that and still work straight into this is, it hasn't actively
Like,
caught the world building
the
yet.
furthest I've gotten is that this kid refers to Elita and Optimus as mom and dad respectively, and that's just because he's gotten that close to them for how long he's been here.
Especially also if you, like I said, when you have that conversation where they're like, yeah, well, look, over
This time.
you know, in they're straightening out some details, but you know, like in a couple months' time, you're gonna be moved. Oh, we're moving the base somewhere? No, we aren't moving the base somewhere. You're the one that's moving. Why can't I? Why am I moving? I thought, well, everything's fine here. I can just stay with you guys. Well, see, unfortunately, sweetie, it's a little more complicated than that. We would love to have you here, but that isn't something that's going to be possible. You know, like I said, there's ways to work into that conversation to also still have stuff going and pull some drama and some things out of that as you go. Especially if part of him getting upset by this conversation and kind of running off somewhere to hide also facilitates him getting picked up by Cobra without anybody noticing at first, only feeding into that whole situation. Then this is how, like, you can use that. And you can steer it in a direction that still makes some level of sense and also fleshes out that little batch of the world building to also bring into us into the idea that, yeah, the humans are used to these Cybertronians being here, but not all humans are happy about it. Not all humans want them here.
I mean, I've even acknowledged that
gives you
point.
layers of how.
I've even acknowledged that point with Ratchet going, you know, for how long the humans have known we've been here. You'd think they'd be ready to meet other aliens by now. Optimus is like, you'd think, but no.
Because Optimus is also now familiar with dealing with the politics of the UN and just humanity at a large of people having to balance the parts of humanity that aren't accepting this, aren't happy that this is happening, would rather this turn, like, just, can we push them back to the moon? They can have the moon! just stay off the Earth! Yeah, like,
We can give them the moon! Like, we won't push you out of the solar system, just off our planet! Like,
yeah, basically, some people are like, no, they gotta go way far, and that they gotta go back to wherever it is they came from, they don't want none of this stuff, since they're firing at each other, you know, like, no. And there's some people like, alright, well, we don't necessarily mind them being here, because some of them are
We
nice,
should take
but,
their
like,
planet from them, see how they like it!
but those ones, they can be here, but we'll push them a little farther away so they're out of sight. They can have the moon. Go ahead and have the moon for a base, and you can still go back and forth. But this way, also, if things start firing and attacking each other, they're on the moon. They're not shooting on Earth. It's fine.
yeah, until fucking Trypticon blows a hole into the moon the size of, like, Africa, and then suddenly, like, we start having trouble with the water.
Shit that come down from that. Yeah, like, no. So then some people are like,
No, give them Mars! Give them Mars!
But the fact that you have those kind of levels of conversation and stuff going on, like, it only fleshes out more of what this world looks like. So, like I said, he's not bad that he's here, but he's really not in any position to actually be I'm gonna actively do things for the plot, like, I'm gonna actually go in and sneak through the air vent and take a bomb out of here for you guys over here. He's not part of your team. That works when it's the Transformers aimed at kids for, like, Saturday morning and stuff like that, because they get to feel like they are basically, that kid is the audience surrogate, that, you know, they get to basically be the one helping and doing some stuff there, because to see he's helping, I could totally help with
And
that
notice,
too.
the most helpful one of those child characters ended up being Cybertronian anyway.
There's the
But, like, that's all done because their tone is built for that. Their tone is not meant to be super, super serious when you go, the tone you're setting up, because there's literally a thing running around erasing parts of the universe from existence.
Like, Surtash and its surrounding planets and all the stars in that part of the galaxy, just delete.
not because it's not saying you can't have teamwork in it, but like the total whiplash of yeah, we could totally have a kid running around and helping us with our day-to-day activities and like helping us
And then the Chaos Bringer
situations,
comments.
and then they are erasing parts of
And then yeah, you have lighthearted you have lighthearted family comedy with the human kid, and then you have the Chaos Bringer just showed up and deleted a part of the galaxy.
You know, like a good, like 3/4 of a whole alien population just got deleted from existence. What does that do to the ones that remain? How does that make the rest of the universe feel about their position in it? Because, you know, like, well, if they can wipe out all, like, for lack of better sense, if they can go ahead and wipe out the Circassians, what's stopping them from wiping us
I'm
out?
afraid the Abbey is not open.
You know, like, and then how do individual races react
And,
to
like,
the thought that they could be extinct in the next 24 hours? Because they have no idea what's going on, and it's stuff is just randomly going around and wiping whole races and places and things out of existence at the drop of a hat. Like, the kind of stuff that's going on in the story, like I said, you can still have some humor and stuff in it, but
And I do plan on keeping some humor in there.
My hope is not gonna fit well in here.
And I understand that. That's why I'm not fighting you on this. Like, I now that I've had that kind of outside perspective, I realize, yeah, shit, what was I thinking? I can still keep the safer family thing for some other story, but it can't work here.
It's just, yeah, it's not built for putting it into the story because the world that you've built
Is
does
legit
not facilitate that kind of
It just can't. It is not built to facilitate this. It just cannot work that way.
Martha's bearers.
Maybe a couple hundred years into the future of this timeline, maybe, but not now.
Not with the Chaos Bringer on the way.
To the extent.
No, not with humanity in the way that humanity is right now, because humans are still humans, and some humans are just a-holes. So, you know, humans are still a very, especially if other races point out, humans are still a very new and young and selfish species.
Optimus Prime himself says this in the first Bayverse movie. They're a young species. They have much to learn.
As it does.
You know, so like, yeah, they're gonna react to things on that kind of scale the way selfish children will, because it's all about us. That's the only way my world has existed before now. It has to stay that way, otherwise I can't function. You know, like
Even
some
Taurians
people
have
make the
compared.
shift, but some people won't.
Even Taurians have made this comparison in Mass Effect proper. You shot at us while we were approaching the mass relay for the first time. Say you saw a child walking towards a loaded gun. Wouldn't you do something to stop that child before they hurt themselves?
Have faith, my son, for you shall
You know, like
So you shot at the child. Yeah, that makes sense.
in this life.
In their minds, they're intervening. They didn't want it to have to resort to violence, but that's just what happened.
I'm just saying their metaphor doesn't make sense because, like, they.
It is acknowledged. It is acknowledged, if memory serves. We didn't want to have to start shooting. It just kind of happened that way.
Well, because when we started to intervene and try to take out your engine so you couldn't get close to it, you interpreted that as aggressive and shot back at us. And so now both sides are shooting because both sides are defending themselves, and this is how it goes.
You started screaming, "God, aliens!" and I'm not sure who opened fire first, but fire was opened.
This is how wars start. Miscommunication.
Exactly. Because, you know, humanity saw that opening shot that took out their engine so you couldn't get any closer to the thingy, and assumed that there was no way that couldn't be hostile. So, of course we have to shoot back, because don't you know, it's trying to hurt us. You know, the thought that it could have just been trying to disable you and not actually actively injure you doesn't seem to even cross your mind, because everything that isn't you and suddenly comes out of nowhere must be aggressive, it must be a threat, and it must be dealt with.
Not for nothing, they also call that for the first contact war because that was the first time we ever encountered
no way it was going to go well. Neither party would be on the other.
No, because you suddenly open and there's suddenly aliens and they aren't even willing to talk to us before they shoot out our engines. They gotta be hostile and not come in peace. We gotta react and we gotta protect ourselves. And by the time everybody starts shooting, nobody's willing to talk anymore. So, because once the humans start shooting and shooting back, then the Taurians are like, oh, hell no. You know, we gotta at least defend ourselves from getting killed by you guys because you guys are just too aggressive for your own good. There's no point in talking to you because you don't seem to be able or capable of talking things out in general. So we'll just wait till we've beaten you into submission and then we'll start talking to you because maybe then you'll finally listen. You know?
Well, it's the prevention of the war in the first place that I'm just trying to find a way to force it.
But that kind of stuff happening is exactly why I go, okay, well, if people were automatically going to be willing to resort to violence as soon as something strange showed up, then humans being human and not liking things that are different would immediately jump straight down the Autobot's throat for daring to even think that they could try to take care of a child, even temporarily. You know, like, there's no way. So I'm like, it's not a bad idea, it just doesn't belong here, because the world you set up with the way people reasonably react being basically similar, if that wouldn't fly in real life here because people have issues with stuff like that, then there's no way that your kid character is going to be able to be there long term. Because he starts making people question, but wait, if they aren't allowed to do that, then why is he here? And it starts becoming a glaring spot that you can't not see.
I see.
You know, so...
Come upstairs.
So it's kind of a good thing I didn't elaborate on the whole circumstances of why he's here yet. Because now I have an opportunity to write myself out of it.
I've seen plenty of bearers die on the
Of course correct a little bit. You want, if you need to retcon things, you want it to be as smooth and seamless and kind of low-key as possible so that it doesn't immediately trigger people's reaction to, oh wait, I think they're retconning that. Didn't this work that way before? You try to hope to smooth it over with enough of the new explanation that people just take the new things and kind of forget the old thing.
The way I see it, now that I've thought about it,
So when the abbot told us the
this kid lost his parents during one of the last battles of the war. The Autobots are only here taking care of him because they were the only thing available at the time.
Well, especially if his parents weren't on the base, the joint base that they're already at, then we're not
Autobot City is more than just Metroplex. There is a city around him.
Then we're not going to immediately tear him out of everything he's familiar with. There's still other humans who are also friends with and familiar with his parents. They can help him some of the... Here, technically...
Who knows? Maybe he's still in the city somewhere, just not in the base.
You know, technically this person has custody of you, but you tend to roam this way and end up in the base more often than you're supposed to. Like, you can't stay here, I'm sorry. But, you know, you can work around that stuff.
Always be welcome here.
As opposed to the clearing things in world building that make less sense.
You were right.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's not.
Really is that Lord Rosfield?
That's what I was trying to question: how much you actually said on the matter and how far you've gotten into things, because that would change how you would go about shifting.
Thankfully, I hadn't gotten too far in, so there is a way out.
Okay, she's getting the screen, so I'm like, oh, let's see my screen went dark. Hope it didn't drop. But yeah, because ultimately you want things to still kind of seem natural. That's why people, in general, will fun to avoid the as you know conversations. That's. Oh, yeah, you're right.
You're not where I left you.
Hurt your hand.
I did, aye.
Yeah.
With 1,000 little lightning bolts. Can't fling them around the way I used to.
People. Nice spike collar, dude.
My decoration for long service and exemplary misconduct.
So yeah, we've gone.
That's how you know he's a badass. He's got a high collar, he's smoking, and he's got 2 swords on his hip.
Yeah. He is also the dominant of Ramu, the Thunder God.
Alrighty then. Yeah, so you don't mess with him.
Yeah.
The fact that he's got something to back it up and also isn't like immediately screaming about how awesome he is to your face is maybe one of the few things. It's like he's not an edgelord yet, but you can see some choices that's like if you overdo them,
you get red.
yeah. Straddle thing.
On that
Red,
note,
who needs a mirror to look at his avatar he can pull up from his inventory screen, but also apparently can somehow see his fact that his head is on fire without needing a mirror. I don't know.
On that note, though, I just find it kind of funny how, despite being very in depth on like the problems with both one of my stories and several of his, like, people, have you noticed the different reactions here? I'm taking in what's actually being said and attempting to adjust for it, trying to learn. Red took the conversations that Kraken had offered and treated them like personal attacks.
Talk about people forging their own futures. But instead of handing them the hammer and beat them,
I can only imagine what he would do if I said, yo, this story sucks.
no bugger wants to listen to what you've got to say.
Yeah, that won't end well.
That would probably just end in him nuking the story and canceling it. He's actually done that for less. For instance, his own attempt at doing a Gundam Build Divers thing with a concept for a Gundam with multiple armors.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Be a bear to start taking, part in that and playing characters because all he really had was the concept for the Gundam. And when Bear and I, in different ways, said no, he just shut that down.
Latios was polite about it. I was not, because I am done with his shit.
Well, because we got to the end of one of the first batches of bubbles for that, and I'm like, is this just like cut off before he continues that conversation, or is he waiting for one of you to offer dialogue?
He then changed the name to RP, basically signaling, start talking, people.
Fuck that and fuck you.
I will.
And that was the response he gave in text.
Is that the last of it?
That was what Bear said to him. And I'm like, okay, that's a bit harsh. I was just gonna say no thank you.
It may seem harsh, but remember what he put us through, man.
I do, and it's why I'm trying to be diplomatic about it.
Yeah, I came back from work and he said that you said that, and I was just like, wow, that conversation went from 0 to hostile in like 6 seconds. Like, what did I miss for that conversation? That's kind of like so strong.
You said you're
open with that. Otherwise, like, how did the conversation get from hey, you want to help this to no, fuck you? I'm like, wow.
So okay, now just imagine Latios wearing a Starfleet uniform while I am like just armored up in Klingon armor. Like he's trying to be diplomatic about it. I am ready to spill blood.
I am staring at
No, Galron's crazy eyes. I have no interest in helping you with your crazy story.
I have to find him before.
The guy.
Can't talk now,
So if you do need someone to beat some sense into you, that I can handle.
Not waste a moment.
Oh my goodness.
So much what happened now.
But I guess he's gotta look at you with those gigantic eyes.
He wasn't fool enough to wait for the Imperials to arrive. To the road, left his own life.
Yeah, and I'm like, that went from like, hey, you want to do this to like, we chose violence in like nothing's left. I'm like, did he say anything before that, or like, how long was that conversation, or was that his immediate reaction? And I'm like, well, that's a bit
He chose violence. I just kind of tried to de-escalate things, though I did admit I didn't want to be a part of that, and I might have lost control and done something I'd regret if I was forced to.
Yeah, because I came back and he's like, yeah, so Andrew asked if we, Fred asked if we were interested in joining in, we keep going back and forth in between Red and Andrew because all of his characters are Andrew. So, like, I know which one, well, except for Arthur, but Arthur,
Arthur may as well be Andrew.
Yeah, so just like he's hoping people come back. He's like, yeah, he's hoping we would help him with that. So I told I said I would probably just nuke the story from the inside by using this batch of Gundam, and Bear just told him to fuck off. I'm like, how did we get to this level of violence? Was that a 5-minute conversation? Was that like a 15-minute argument with people? Like, what happened? I went to work and I came back to find that people had tried to like.
You went to work. You came back, and it's that GIF from what was it? Community, where the guy comes in with the pizzas, and like a bunch of people are like either on the ground or something. So like there's fire. There's like a wolf walking in the apartment. There's mess everywhere, and the guy's just like, "I was gone for 10 minutes."
Exactly. I was like, what just happened? I'm like, oh. So, I mean, I will admit that I vicariously sometimes hope that, sometimes when I notice that your icon is scrolling down the bubbles, like when me and Andrew start arguing with each other, Andrew, oh my god, I can't today. Wolverine. I'm gonna call them both because I can't. When we start arguing, go off of stories, because he'll ask for 2 cents, and when I start putting in like change worth, then he suddenly starts going, no, wait, I don't feel like I actually don't think this is a good idea, and he'll start arguing back and forth, and when he starts taking a tone and arguing, I try to hold off as long as possible, but sometimes when he starts getting kind of snippy and argumentative, I'm like, alright, forget it, I'm about to choose violence right now myself, fine.
The reason I try the diplomatic approach in the first place.
Well, sometimes my brain is also
because otherwise I'd have just immediately chosen violence. My sister gave me a better model to use, and I am using it.
Right, I try to avoid it, but
Okay.
sometimes I start getting riled up and violent. I'm like, I really wish like Bear and other people were reading through the comments at the same pace that we're typing this, because I kind of want the vicarious reactions of people watching the carnage. Otherwise, we tend to get to the end of those conversations and people come back and it's like,
excuse me for one moment. Okay, so, thank you all for watching. This has been Vegas Bear 92. I will be back tomorrow with, well, me and Latios both will be back tomorrow with more Super Robot Wars, but until then, we'll see y'all then. Also, let me know what you think of the Final Fantasy series, like, these videos of FF16 so far, because I don't feel like they're the best right now. Like, I don't know. It's like every time I try to do this, it feels like there's something that's keeping me from making this like a banger. So, anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you